Formula One on 5 Live.
It's race day in the entertainment capital of the world. Formula One returns to Nevada to kickstart the triple header that closes out this 2024 season. Running in between the hotels, bars and casinos, over the sounds of card shuffling, chips falling and dice rolls, lies a 6-kilometre street track that races down the iconic Las Vegas Strip, illuminated in neon lights. And this evening, home to the roar of 20 Formula One cars ready to race 50 laps, flashing past the Venetian Hotel, the Statue of Liberty of New York, New York, and the Eiffel Tower of Paris at speeds of over 300 kilometres. We're less than half an hour away from lights out in Sin City, and it's today that sees the first opportunity for Max Verstappen to continue to carve his name into Formula One's history books and become a 4-time world champion. But with Mercedes and Ferrari looking stronger and McLaren a little further adrift, not all the cards have been dealt evenly tonight. But to find out who will hit the jackpot under the lights alongside myself, Harry Benjamin, is racing driver Alice Powell, the BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson, and keeping an eye on all the happenings on the grid and in the paddock, it's Rosanna Tennant. Good evening, Rosanna.
Good evening. Wow, what a party atmosphere, Harry. The grandstand on the start-finish straight is filling up, I would say. Not everybody in just yet. And the grid is filling up. All the engineers have just piled onto it. Carlos Sainz is now in position in his Ferrari, and Pierre Gasly as well in the Alpine has just pulled up alongside me. But all eyes are on Max Verstappen. He's just found his way to the grid, and the photographers are rushing, the film crews are rushing, and the celebrities are going to be rushing to see him this evening, because what a night it could be, Harry. It is star-studded down here on the grid. Oh, wow, what an amazing place to spend your Saturday evening.
It certainly is. The atmosphere is electric. The grandstands are filling up, some full. They haven't been full all weekend long, but it is really ramping up for race evening under the lights in Las Vegas. And Rosanna, feel free to cut right in if you get a star-studded celebrity, or indeed a driver as well. They're quite handy too. And indeed, to talk of the drivers, George Russell starts on pole alongside him, the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz, and Pierre Gasly in the Alpine is starting a remarkable third place. We will come on to all of them. But Alice Powell, I think we have to touch on the Dutchman first. Max Verstappen, he actually starts this race down in 5th, but this is the first race possible for him to clinch that 4th world title.
Yeah, it certainly is, Harry. All he has to do is finish ahead of Lando Norris, and he's starting alongside his championship rival. Is Lando going to give it a go? Can Lando get off the line better than Max Verstappen? Lando struggled in recent times with his start, but last time out was pretty decent, so he'll be looking to try and brave it round the outside, possibly down the inside of Max Verstappen. But this is one of the races that I am looking forward to this year. The times have been so close and it's been unpredictable. Who would have thought coming here that we would have a Mercedes on pole and then an Alpine sitting in 3rd place of Pierre Gasly?
It's set up to be an absolute corker. Let's head back down to Rosanna.
Harry, I'm with the team principal of Red Bull, Christian Horner. What a night this could be. Do you feel it's on tonight, Christian?
Well, look, I mean, anything's possible. I mean, it's our first shot at, it's our first match point, basically. So, it'd be nice to get the job done here in Vegas for sure.
Obviously starting a little bit further down the grid, does that provide a little bit of an extra challenge? Because Max is a little bit in that crunch zone.
He is, but he's got his nearest rival just behind him. So, look, and it's a track you can overtake at. So I think it's going to be a busy race. I think that, if it's anything like last year's race, it was a thriller.
It certainly was. What did you say to Max before he headed out in the car this evening?
Look, I think he knows the objective today, and he'll drive accordingly to get the best out of the car. But it's a bit warmer and it's a lot windier, and that could have a big effect on how these cars are behaving.
How will it affect it? Is that then overtaking becomes trickier?
I think I don't know about it becomes trickier, but definitely the cars react to the wind, but with it being warmer, the tyres that have this graining in the cold, maybe it won't be such a factor now.
Interesting. Well, have a great race, and if it comes your way, the championship, then I'm sure it'll all be celebrations later on.
Well, let's hope so. Thank you.
Rosanna with the team principal of Red Bull, Christian Horner, there gearing up for the start of this race. Indeed, for Max Verstappen to be crowned champion, all he must do simply is finish ahead of Lando Norris in this race. However, to keep this going to next weekend in Qatar, Lando Norris must outscore Max Verstappen by at least 3 points to keep the title going. We will keep you up to date with how it is all looking throughout the course of the 50 laps expected from this. But Andrew Benson, BBC's F1 correspondent, it hasn't been plain sailing. We'll come back to you in a minute. Let's head down to Rosanna first.
Well, Harry, I'm feeling like a third wheel. I'm just going to try and interrupt a chef legend, Gordon Ramsay, who's having a quick chat with Winnie Harlow as well. Feeling a little bit like a third wheel, not going to lie. But hang on, they're just taking a selfie. You might be able to see that on social media later. Mr. Ramsay, Gordon Ramsay, great to see you on the grid here. I know you're a huge fan of Formula One, but what a night to be here when Max Verstappen could take the title. Do you think he can do it?
Tonight's the night. Look how he drove in Brazil as a tiny example. He's unstoppable. It's going to be tight. I think Ferrari's going to be strong though. But Max has got to finish in front of Lando. Then it's game over. So it's going to be an exciting night. And what a place. Look at it. Amazing.
Oh, great to have you here.
Likewise. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Gordon Ramsay does love his Formula One, seen him pop up at many races throughout this season. It is simple for Max Verstappen in terms of the permutations, Andrew, but it's been a far from simple weekend for Red Bull.
Yeah, Red Bull is struggling this weekend, as people thought they would actually on this track in Las Vegas. Long straights, short duration, slow corners. It's not their happy hunting ground. He's done a good job to qualify fifth in the end, I think. Over the course of the weekend, look, he might be a lot further down than that. Norris hasn't had a happy time either, though. McLaren are expecting a better pace in the race, but everybody's talking about Mercedes and Ferrari, particularly Ferrari, and I've got a little thing about Charles Leclerc this weekend. People might have understood that already. I think he might come through from fourth on the grid to win.
Well, it's certainly going to be one to watch out for. Ferrari are strong. Leclerc on pole here last year had to settle for fourth in yesterday's qualifying. The other Red Bull, we should say, Sergio Perez, having another struggle in qualifying, down in 15th, was actually knocked out in the first part of qualifying. Alice, let's head back up to our pole sitter, George Russell in the Mercedes, will start this race with the best view in the house. And really, Mercedes, as a, what is it a surprise that they've been so strong this weekend? Pretty much straight out of the blocks.
Yeah, it's a surprise for them, I think, too, Harry, as much as it is for us. I mean, this long straights, there's a brake, turn, squirt of the throttle, a lot of sort of 90-degree corners here, which suits them a little bit better, and it's nowhere near as bumpy as Sao Paulo and previous circuits that we've recently been to. So a big shock for George. He definitely wasn't expecting to be on pole position. They've actually topped every single session so far this weekend. Lewis Hamilton the first two practice sessions, George then with free practice 3 and qualifying. However, it's very gusty, lots of gusts, nearly blowing Max Verstappen's hat off when he was on the driver parade, and it keeps changing direction as well. And it's also, I was speaking to a couple of the mechanics who've been stood out in the pit lane, sweeping and clearing the pit lane when the drivers come in. They said it's so dusty, this dust has just appeared from nowhere, and I've opted not to put contact lenses in today, and that is mainly because I know how dusty it is and it'll get in my eyes. So that's going to play a part, because George is going to be the first person to venture out round, if he gets off the line of course, to turn 1, turn 2, and we've seen how slippy the track is all weekend. Drivers saying at some points it's like driving on ice. And of course, the strip's been open to the public. Me and producer Paddy drove down it earlier on when we popped out in our taxi for a little look round Las Vegas.
Yeah, well, it certainly is a place to try and see some of the sights, although pretty much everything is on your doorstep, especially as you hurtle down that Las Vegas strip. It really is a unique place for a Formula One race to take part back here for the second edition of this Las Vegas Strip Circuit Grand Prix. It was less than a tenth of a second that George Russell took pole position by. Lewis Hamilton, his teammate, was also very much in the fight, and he said as well it should have been pole, and it's another frustrating qualifying.
Yes, it was a really big disappointment for Lewis Hamilton, because And we're just going to throw down to Rosanna, who's got another celebrity on the grid.
Celebrity and a sporting star. Rory McIlroy, great to have you here on the grid. What do you make of all this? This is quite an entertaining spectacle.
It is a spectacle. It's amazing. I've been to different Formula One races, but Vegas definitely feels different. Just the glitz, the glamour. I think the expansion of F1 in America, just seeing all of it, it's really cool. It's cool to be here and be a part of it.
Can you compare it in any way to golf? What would be the equivalent?
To golf? Probably a live event would be like that. I'd say, with the music and everything that's going on, but it's amazing. It's a great atmosphere, and it's really cool to be racing at this time of night as well. Just very, very cool.
And of course, you've got a little bit of skin in the game. Alpine qualifying P3 with Pierre Gasly. What have you said to them? Suddenly turn of performance.
I actually left last night after Q2, so I think me leaving was part of the reason. But really excited for Pierre, see what he does tonight. Esteban not too far away from the points as well, so it could be a really good night for the team.
Enjoy it. Thank you.
Rory McIlroy talking to Rosanna Tennant. I'm surprised Rosanna didn't ask him for any kind of swing advice on the driving range a little earlier, trying to get some tips from a man who knows best.
I didn't have the time, Harry. I tried to keep it pro.
Next time. Thanks, Rosanna. We'll come back to you shortly. Where were we, Alice? Lewis Hamilton, 10th place. A mistake on his final lap as well in qualifying, and that's where it all fell away. But it's another chance of pole gone this season.
Yeah, a huge disappointment for him, because he was actually 2/10 quicker than George Russell in Q2 and was looking really good, both of them going into the Q3. It could have been a team Mercedes 1-2, which again, another thing that we wouldn't have expected coming into this weekend. He had a snap on the rear going into turn 3. He had to have a huge lift back out the throttle, and then as a driver, that's it, game over. There was no chance of him to move any further up the order, so he had to settle, unfortunately, for 10th place. So we'll keep an eye on him charging through, because I think he has definitely got the pace. Mercedes race pace, though, is not as strong as Ferrari or Red Bull and McLaren.
Well, he will have to do some overtaking. Last year, though, in this race, finished 7th. So we'll see where Hamilton can get up to. These conditions, this track, favouring Mercedes so far this weekend. Andrew, you've already said in your bones you feel it might be a Charles Leclerc Ferrari day under the lights. What about Leclerc? What about Carlos Sainz? He's the lead Ferrari. He starts second.
Well, they're both in with a really great shot of the win. The Ferrari was expected to go well around Las Vegas, and it really has done. Leclerc didn't feel the car in qualifying, but he says after 3 laps, that's when the car comes alive for him. Of course, he's got to pass 3 people to get to that win. But I think it looks to me like a battle for the win between Russell, Sainz and Leclerc. As for Hamilton, he's just, when it gets to Q3, he's just making too many mistakes at the moment. I'm not really sure why. There's all sorts of theories about it. I don't think he's forgotten how to drive. It's not like he's suddenly this much slower than George Russell, like 7/10 or whatever the margin was. No, he didn't do a lap time, did he, in Q3? It's just, it just isn't happening for him. He's trying too hard, I think, fundamentally, is probably what it is.
Well, Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time champion, just making his way onto what is one of the busiest grids of the season. He'll be making his way right to the very front, where all the other drivers now are migrating their way to. We'll have 19 drivers on the grid. 1 will go from the pit lane, and Franco Colapinto will bring you up to speed on all of that in a few moments' time. But it is an absolutely ram-packed Las Vegas strip circuit, just over 6 kilometres in length, this track. We're gearing up for 50 ferocious laps around this circuit, and it's one that we're all hoping is going to be an absolute corker. But first, the national anthem of the United States of America. Boys to Men with the national anthem, the sphere illuminated in stars and stripes. Let's head back down to Rosanna Tennant.
And I'm with Toto Wolff, team principal at Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One team. Good evening, Toto. This is quite a party, isn't it?
Yeah, it's mega. I mean, this is, if you would have told me a few years ago that Formula One is going to be that big in the United States, I would have never believed it.
And this evening you are the stars of the show, with George Russell up there on pole position. How likely is it that he's going to take the win this evening, do you think?
I would hope so, but you're the star of the show if you win the race, and we haven't started yet.
That's very true. It's incredibly gusty down here. That's going to affect things. How much is your car affected by the wind like this?
Unfortunately, it's quite a lot of the fact that I don't think we are the best ones in wind, and not fast enough on the straight because we have a big wing, so the wind is gonna blow against us. So, but let's see what it does.
And in terms of tyre choice this evening, was it a tough call between the medium and the hard?
Yes. We'll see.
I know you're not going to tell me what you're starting on, but I guess Carlos Sainz may want to go for that medium to get a jump on George, and maybe that's something you were considering.
Maybe that's also why we need to do a medium.
Oh, cryptic. Have a great race, Toto.
Thank you.
Toto Wolff, the team principal of Mercedes, speaking with Rosanna Tennant. This is build up to the Las Vegas Grand Prix, the beginning of the triple header that finishes off this 2024 Formula One season. We'll head to Qatar next weekend before it all finishes up in Abu Dhabi. But first, the party feels like it is only just starting. The music is blaring, the lights are on, the sun has set, and the night is very much overcast on this Vegas evening. Now, Rosanna was trying to get all of the gossip out of Toto Wolff when it comes to tyres, and that has been the talk of the town this weekend, Alice. One term that has been mentioned quite a lot is cold graining. What is it, and why is it an issue?
Oh, I'm surprised you've asked me that question, Harry. You don't like me talking about cold graining, but everyone's been talking about it. It's so crucial to the performance of the car. Basically what it is you need to heat the tyre from inside out. You need to raise the core temperature before you raise the surface temperature, and that's particularly difficult when you're at a track that has low track temperatures. We're used to track temperatures like Miami, etc. 50 degrees it was in Miami, same with Budapest. It's 18 degrees here, so the drivers, of course, they've got heated blankets. As soon as those blankets are off and the cars are placed down onto the surface, they start to lose temperature, and if you don't heat the tyre correctly, you then start to get cold graining. That reduces tyre life and it reduces grip, so it's really important. It's going to be easier for the drivers to get tyre temperature today because it is about 6 or 7 degrees warmer than it was over the past couple of days, but still it's highly important, and we've heard Christian Horner was talking about it there to Rosanna, so it's very important, Andrew.
Yeah, it's basically a tearing of the tyre surface. It slides over the track, the rubber tears on top, and then you don't have a smooth surface, so you lose surface area basically, so the tyre doesn't have as much grip. Simple as that. And it happens because of this temperature imbalance that Alice is talking about.
And so then, when it comes to the strategy, what are we expecting for this evening's race?
A one-stop, unless there's a safety car, of course, to throw a spanner into the works, and it's definitely going to be on the medium and the hard tyre. The only question is which way round. Most people will incline towards the medium because of the extra grip off the line, but the hard is probably the better tyre. And then the question is, how long is the medium going to go? People think the medium's not a very good tyre, the hard is. So it's not impossible. People might end up going to be pushed onto a two-stop. Now, just to go back to Charles Leclerc, my little favourite for the win, he got into a position to win last year. He didn't in the end because the safety car scuppered his strategy. He would have won. He ran a long first stint on the medium because he had such a quick car. He was able to drive within the capabilities of the tyre and keep it going longer than other people.
Well, there are so many moving parts in what will be a fantastic story throughout the next couple of hours. We're slowly closing in on lights out in about 10 minutes time or so. Alice, you work a lot with the Alpine Formula One team off the back of an absolutely spectacular result for both Gasly and Ocon in Sao Paulo. Perhaps a shock getting a double podium, but then Pierre Gasly goes and qualifies third. He starts just behind George Russell and Carlos Sainz. Do Alpine have the pace to back this up over the race?
I mean, realistically, no. The race pace is certainly not as strong as the rivals around them, but their aim coming into this weekend was to get both cars in the points, let alone have a great qualifying session like they did yesterday. So it was a big shock to the team, but it just shows the hard work that's been going on behind closed doors back at the factory in Enstone and at Viri as well, because going into this season, Harry, in pre-season testing, Alpine were the slowest car on the grid, and no one expected, certainly fans, teams, expected them to be getting podiums, and a double podium last time out for the team was just fantastic.
And it's happened since Flavio Briatore was put in charge of the team as executive advisor, but basically he's the big boss. I saw Flavio a bit earlier, we've known each other for a long time, and I said, looks like you know what you're doing, Flav, and he went, yep.
He's made a lot of changes back at base. He's moved things around. He doesn't want to take, he doesn't want to come in and make huge differences in terms of, changing the whole structure of the team, because they have had success, but he's certainly out here to make improvements, and certainly improvements he has made, because he's had great success with this outfit in the past, and his trophies are still sat proudly in reception at Enstone.
Absolutely. Well, he's got a great starting place as Pierre Gasly from third. Indeed, it was his teammate who managed to finish fourth at this race last year. Esteban Ocon just starts outside of the top 10, down in 11th, and it will be a crucial weekend for the Constructors' Championship as well. That will continue to go down to the wire. McLaren currently lead the way by 36 points to Ferrari. Red Bull a little further adrift in third, 13 points back. Then come Mercedes and Aston Martin, the top 5. Alpine now leading the way in the charge for 6th in the Constructors' Championship, just 5 points separating them, Haas and RB. Williams a little further adrift down in 9th, and Sauber, the only team yet to get off the mark or score any points. They are down in 10th and last, with 3 races left to go to try and bag anything before the year is out. And it is the Constructors' Championship, which could be absolutely phenomenal when we race under the lights in Abu Dhabi as well. McLaren versus Ferrari. Red Bull seem to really only have one car in the fight consistently now. Sergio Perez not able to bag any points. And meanwhile, McLaren are able to score points with both drivers, and their boss is talking to Rosanna Tennant now.
Thanks, Harry. Yes, Zach, this weekend's been tricky for you guys. It's a tiny bit warmer than perhaps we were expecting. So is that going to help Lando and Oscar this evening?
A little bit more heat helps. So I wouldn't classify it as hot, but it's certainly warmer than it's been the last 2 days. So that'll be help us out a little bit.
And of course, this could be a pivotal moment in Lando Norris's career this evening if Max Verstappen indeed wins the title. What have you said to him getting in the car this evening?
Just keep doing what he's been doing all year. That's all he can do. Can't control Max's race, only his own. So he's had a fantastic year. Obviously, the championship's pretty tall order at this point, but that won't change his approach, which is trying to go forward.
And when it comes to constructors, obviously Ferrari are both ahead of you. The 2 drivers ahead. That's going to be close, I imagine.
I wish they were behind us. Unfortunately, we can see them, but I think tonight's going to be a tricky race.
Oh, good luck.
Thank you.
Rosanna Tennant talking to the CEO of McLaren, Zach Brown, with their 2 drivers, Lando Norris starting down in 6th and Oscar Piastri starting in 8th. Still more for us to cover as we build up towards lights out for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. But for now, let's get all your latest headlines with Carl Hartley.
The Voice. Formula One on 5 Live.
Welcome back to Nevada. We're in Las Vegas under the lights, getting ready for the Grand Prix. The cards are being shuffled, the dice is about to be rolled, but who will win the jackpot come the end of the 50 laps around this 6.2 kilometer track that runs around Sin City, including that Las Vegas Strip, down the boulevard, ploughing past the Eiffel Tower, around the Paris Hotel, following the Venetian, Caesar's Palace looking on, the Statue of Liberty in the distance as well by New York, New York. Las Vegas really does have it all. 5 cities in one, and we are just a few minutes away from getting this race underway. It will be George Russell and the Mercedes that starts on pole position. Alongside him, the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. Meanwhile, the championship in the drivers' standings, that can be settled today. If Max Verstappen finishes ahead of Lando Norris, he will be a 4-time world champion. But at the moment, Red Bull and Verstappen have not found it easy around this circuit so far. Joining myself, Harry Benjamin, to call you through all the action is Alice Powell, also the BBC Sports F1 correspondent Andrew Benson. We'll have Rosanna Tennant down on the ground in the paddock, bringing us all the very latest too. And Alice, as the tyre warmers are about to be lifted off the cars before they go on their formation lap, what do we know about the tyre situation?
Yeah, so most of the grid have opted for the medium tyre, and saying most of the grid, that is all of your top 14 all the way down to Liam Lawson. Sergio Perez in 15th. The hard, Fernando Alonso, the only driver to take a risk, a gamble, and we are here in Las Vegas, on the soft tyre. And then the final two runners, Valtteri Bottas and Franco Colapinto, who will be starting from pit lane after his hefty accident in qualifying yesterday. He's starting on the hard tyres.
Yeah, we should just mention about Franco Colapinto, the Argentinian driver who has substituted for Logan Sargent now for the last 6 Grand Prix. There's a lot of positivity around it, but it was a big crash that he had yesterday in qualifying. He is okay, and it certainly will be one to watch out for, to try and repay the Williams drivers and team this weekend. But it's time now for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Let's run you down the full grid then for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. It's George Russell on pole position, alongside him Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. Pierre Gasly's Alpine is third, ahead of Charles Leclerc in the other Ferrari fourth. Max Verstappen starts fifth for Red Bull, ahead of his title rival Lando Norris in sixth, with Yuki Tsunoda in the RB seventh. Oscar Piastri is eighth, Nico Hulkenberg's Haas is ninth, and Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes starts from 10th. Esteban Ocon is 11th for Alpine. Kevin Magnussen in the second Haas goes from 12th, ahead of RB's Liam Lawson. Sergio Perez, another poor qualifying, down in 15th, ahead of the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso in 16th. Then comes the Williams of Alex Albon. Lance Stroll's Aston Martin is 18th. Valtteri Bottas with a 5-place grid penalty starts from 19th. He'll be the last car on the grid, because from the pit lane will be the Williams of Franco Colapinto. Formation lap then well and truly underway. Alice, talk us through what the drivers are attempting to do on this formation lap. We know how difficult it is to get tyres up to temperature here.
Yeah, excluding of the obvious, which is building tyre temperatures, getting temperature into the brakes as well. It's doing the final checks, the final moments for them. They'll have a routine that each driver will go through, building up through the gears, getting temperature and just settling those nerves down. The teams will be on to them on the radio, making sure they're getting the right settings on the steering wheel. And just as they're coming down, Harry, the straight into 10, 12, and then they'll exit onto the strip. There's a lot of debris out there. There's a lot of paper, it looks like, and bags I can see that's covering the circuit. So there's a lot of dust and debris out there. It is gusty. There's now a headwind going into turn 12 from turn 14, and that's pretty much the strip. So it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers will use that. DRS will be very powerful if that headwind continues there, as the drivers are coming round onto the grid, all getting in the right setting modes, the launch modes that they would have practiced time and time again on every practice start that they have done and race start this season. But who's going to get it right?
Well, everybody is starting to take their places. George Russell now lining up in that pole position, followed by Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. Rosanna Tennant, what more have you got?
The fans are starting to fill the grandstand alongside the start-finish straight, and George Russell's pulled up to his grid spot. He's going to hope the cars take their places pretty quickly, because the longer he sits there, the quicker he's going to lose temperature in those tyres. Alice has been talking about building the temperatures. You don't want to lose all that by sitting on the grid too long. Ooh, it's going to be tight for him, I have to say. The cars are taking their time to come round.
They certainly are, aren't they? Thanks, Rosanna. We are moments away from the Las Vegas Grand Prix. There were over 80 on-track passes here last year. It was an absolute sensation. What will we get over the course of the next 2 hours? Mercedes versus Ferrari, for an Alpine and a McLaren in there. But what about Red Bull? Can Max Verstappen clinch his 4th world title? We will find out over the course of the next 50 laps. But on pole position, it's George Russell. Alongside him is Carlos Sainz. It's eyes to the lights and foot to the floor as we go racing under the lights in Las Vegas. It's a good start from George Russell down the inside, holds the position. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc is coming through up on his teammate, and Leclerc now taking round the outside of Carlos Sainz. Leclerc up into second place, Sainz down a position, but a good start then for George Russell, who leads the way.
One of the McLarens looks like that they might have maybe a little bit of damage. It's not Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri. He got shuffled out down the pack, but he's managed to keep a couple of positions at least, but Lando Norris all over the back of Max Verstappen.
Russell, Leclerc, then comes Sainz. The Alpine of Gasly has fallen down a position to fourth as they start to concertina up through the tight and twisty turns 8 and 9, running underneath the sphere that illuminates this part of the track. Further back, an RB and a Haas get oh so close, almost touching tyres, but so far it has been fairly clean, cleaner than it was last year. Side-by-side action though, further back in the pack as they try and sort themselves out. It's the RB of Liam Lawson racing the Haas of Kevin Magnussen over 13th and 14th as the top of the field start to spread out. Verstappen has managed to keep his nose clean in the build-up and is eyeing up Pierre Gasly's 4th place.
Now here's the real big test as they jump onto the brakes into turn 14. Have you got these front tyres in? Have you got the temperature in the brakes? And the dust, Harry, that's being kicked up down this strip is incredible. Side-by-side action from Lawson, and one of the Haas is there. Did they make it through? They just about make it through turn 16, which is where Colapinto had his shunt, but it's going to be a drag race into the final corner. And
just before you know it, we've completed the first lap of the Las Vegas Grand Prix, and the closest battle is further down in the midfield. Sergio Perez, who started from 15th, late on the brakes, down into the left-hander of turn 1, fighting with the Williams of Alex Albon, making his way up to 16th, but he started 15th, so it's been a poor start for the other Red Bull. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen, who right now, if the race ended here, would be a 4-time world champion. Lando Norris is behind him. This is the sound, though, of the Dutchman eyeing up Pierre Gasly's Alpine, trying to find a way round the left-hander that sweeps through turn 6. No way through there for Max Verstappen. He'll have to settle line astern through turns 7, 8 and 9.
Yeah, he's not going to have the pace, I don't think, to keep Max Verstappen behind. DRS is now enabled, but Pierre's job is to make sure he gets those exits because he hasn't got the performance through the corners compared to the Red Bull that's behind him. But so far, he's doing a good job. But this is where Lando needs to close the gap to Max. He's dropping back ever so slightly. He needs to put the pressure on Max to try and make Max make a move, possibly a wrong move at some point on Pierre Gasly, but he seems to drop back a little bit, Harry.
Well, the thing about that Alpine is that as well, it is an absolute rocket ship in a straight line. This is the sound of Max Verstappen. DRS is now activated. That's the drag reduction system that allows you to open up the rear wing. You get around about a 9/10 of a second gain. When you open that up, you reduce the drag, but you can only open it when you're within a second of the car in front. But Gasly right now has the straight line speed to keep Verstappen at bay. Across the line for lap 3, it's Russell who now leads this race by 0.8 of a second to Charles Leclerc's Ferrari. Carlos Sainz a further 1.9 seconds back in third. Then it's Gasly, Verstappen, Norris, the top 6. Yuki Tsunoda has held firm in 7th ahead of Nico Hülkenberg. Piastri's fallen down to 9th. Hamilton's made no gains, still in 10th place. Then it's Ocon, Zhou, Lawson, Alonso, Magnussen is 15th ahead of Perez. Then comes Albon in 17th. Stroll, Bottas and Franco Colapinto from the pit lane has now caught up to the back of the Sauber, right at the back of the pack.
Your man Zhou is under investigation with Liam Lawson for leaving a track and gaining an advantage. That'll be shuffling about at the start. Now, here we have a battle. Tsunoda is getting a train behind him of Hülkenberg, Piastri, Hamilton. Ocon could even join this fight as well. So struggling Tsunoda at the moment. He's going to be under a lot of pressure as he heads on to that strip at the back there. The gap at the moment, Gasly's inching away ever so slightly from Verstappen, which is allowing Norris to build up to the back of Max. But out front, George Russell is controlling the pace very nicely, but not able to break the DRS of Charles Leclerc. And actually, Carlos Sainz is out of DRS of his teammate.
I'll tell you what, though, further up front, Charles Leclerc has closed right up to the back of George Russell with the aid of DRS into the braking zone at the end of the Las Vegas Strip, powering past the Eiffel Tower, chuck it into the left-hander through the Planet Hollywood section, and then it is more flat-out action as you race towards the final corner. It's a left-hand kink. They sweep past our commentary boxes flat out to cross the line for lap 4. The Scarlet Red Ferrari illuminated under the lights, chasing down the silver arrow of George Russell, who still leads this race. Sainz a little further back in third, and Gasly still holding the fort in fourth, keeping Verstappen and Norris at bay.
Gasly's now way out of DRS from Carlos Sainz. He's going to be under huge amounts of pressure, and I've just spotted George Russell has a bag or some debris of some sort on his left-hand side of the car. We'll try and get a closer look if the pictures allow us, and he's just run slightly wide, Harry, into the very twisty section of 7, 8, 9. That's going to allow Leclerc to be even closer to him, but he's going to have to wait for his first opportunity, or his second opportunity of this lap, should I say, of DRS. But yeah, you can just see, Harry, that piece, that plastic bag that will affect the aero on that Mercedes, and he's on the medium tyre. An estimated pit window, if you are on the medium tyre, is lap 14 to 20, so it's got at least 10 laps yet to where Mercedes will be able to bring him in and remove that plastic bag of debris of some sort.
That is the nature you can get on a street circuit, though, when it reopens to the public every night. Here we go then, now we're on board. This is the sound of Max Verstappen, but George Russell, meanwhile, is having to defend quite dramatically from Charles Leclerc to the inside at the end of the Vegas strip, as Verstappen is finally able to get past Pierre Gasly. Verstappen's up to 4th, and Leclerc could well be about to take the lead of this race side by side through the left-hand kink of 17. Russell will have the inside into the braking zone of turn 1, forces Leclerc right to the edge of the track. Leclerc has to bail out of it, slops in behind George Russell, placing that Mercedes as aggressively as he could, and while they fight, Carlos Sainz is catching up to the back of them. Russell, Leclerc, Sainz 3rd, and now Max Verstappen has broken through on Pierre Gasly and is up to 4th.
Yeah, there's a great bit of driving there from George Russell. He knew that Leclerc was going to try it around the outside. He obviously listened to Andrew Benson's interview with Max Verstappen and not allowing drivers to go around the outside, but that's allowed Carlos Sainz to join in the fight here. However, I'm sure Ferrari would have sat these two drivers down before the race started and said, right boys, let's work together. So it'll be interesting to see what Ferrari do here. I can't imagine that Carlos Sainz will put on an attack to his teammate. Just coming up on our screens as well, false start noted for Oscar Piastri. That could be a number of things: out of his grid box, or he jumped the start.
Yeah, we'll try and get another look at that if the pictures show us. Lap 5 of 50, Russell leads 1.1 seconds. He's just been able to extend that gap after Leclerc piling on the pressure. Sainz now within DRS of his teammate. That's the top 3. Verstappen, Gasly is 5th ahead of Norris. Then comes Tsunoda, Hülkenberg, Piastri, Hamilton, the top 10. They are your point scorers. Ocon, Zhou, Lawson, Magnussen and Perez are the top 15. Perez on the hard tyre, going long into this race. Everybody ahead of him is on the medium. Then comes Albon in 16th, just ahead of Stroll. Then Bottas and Colapinto 19th. Fernando Alonso, I believe, has come in to the pits. He started on the soft tyre, trying to get that quick start, trying to find some positions off the line, and has been forced to come in to the pits early doors. Now, Alice, we're just getting another look at the start here.
I think Oscar was too far forward in his box. That's who I was watching. Then further up the front, nearly contact between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. Pierre Gasly was a little bit too late on the brakes, and that allowed Charles Leclerc to go up the inside of him, and then of course he was very brave to get past his teammate. We're getting the replay of on board from Charles Leclerc. A good launch from him, smooth up the gears. Gasly looked to go around the outside of his teammate, wasn't able to do so, and Charles Leclerc, it's almost like the seas parted. He said thank you very much, 2 positions gained, and was so on the edge. Now on board by Max Verstappen. He gets a better launch actually than Charles Leclerc on his left-hand side, but is a little bit boxed in by the Alpine in front of him, and then nearly, Harry, contact from behind. And we're looking back, Yuki Tsunoda collecting his sister teammate.
Yeah, then Tsunoda actually really forced Piastri out wide, and that dropped Piastri a further position from where he started. Good morning. If you are just waking up, you're listening to the voices. Well, that was Alice Powell, the racing driver, alongside myself, Harry Benjamin. This is live coverage of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. It's round 22 of the Formula One season, and we are under the lights racing here in Nevada down the iconic Las Vegas Strip for the second year in a row. Right now, it's George Russell who started from pole. He leads this race.
Lawson moving the straight line when I was slipstreaming. You know, he was reacting.
I mean, that was aggressive racing from Liam Lawson, and I often find that F1 drivers like to moan a lot, because that's what we see usually in Formula 2, and we're just getting a slow-mo, and it looks like it's tissue or something that stuck to the side of George Russell's car, so that will hopefully find its way off. We'll see if it's still on there at some point.
Yeah, that was a little earlier on George Russell's car, some debris that has attached itself almost to the floor edge of that Mercedes. It's not affecting his pace. He's 1.6 seconds clear at the front. Leclerc is second, Sainz third. Then it's Max Verstappen in fourth in the Red Bull. It's not been an easy weekend for Red Bull so far. The temperatures and the type of car they have brought here, their rear wing, not working well for the track layout and the nature of it. However, this is the first weekend where Max Verstappen has the possibility of becoming a four-time world champion, and right now, as it stands, if it ends like this, Verstappen in fourth and Lando Norris down in sixth, Max Verstappen is a Formula One world champion for the fourth time. But we will keep you up to speed with how that unfolds as we start to get to grips with this race continuing on. Meanwhile, further back in the pack, we're seeing Oscar Piastri going toe-to-toe with Lewis
Sainz
Hamilton.
has made a move on his teammate. Sainz is down the inside of Charles Leclerc into turn 14, so the Ferraris have swapped around. The battle still continues between Lewis Hamilton and Oscar Piastri, but Sainz has now moved up into second place. The gap, though, to George Russell, he's gone 2.6 seconds.
Yeah, Sainz lining up his teammate with the aid of DRS down the Las Vegas Strip. Sainz, who started in second place, now has regained that spot. The Ferrari back ahead of his teammate Charles Leclerc, who is now down to third. Then it's Verstappen, Gasly the top five, Norris, Tsunoda. Then this battle that we're watching play out between Piastri and Hamilton over 8th and 9th. Nico Hülkenberg has now worked his way up inside the top 10. But right now, George Russell is absolutely cruising out in front, after seeing some pressure from the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. 3.1 seconds now, the gap between Russell and Sainz. The closest fight on the circuit is between the other McLaren of Piastri and Lewis Hamilton. One pit stop so far in the form of Fernando Alonso, who pitted early to get rid of his soft tyre. All 20 drivers still in this one. It's the sound of the Australian driver, Oscar Piastri, and McLaren have struggled so far this weekend. Not massively, but it's a track that they didn't expect to do well as they fly underneath the sphere, make their way past the many hotels and casinos that line this circuit, and making his way closer and closer to the podium positions. Max Verstappen now, having started down in 5th place, was stuck behind Pierre Gasly, made his way through, has now closed up to the back of Charles Leclerc, to the side of Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, ahead of Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari as they come into the braking zone, and Max Verstappen is up into the podium places in third.
I think Charles Leclerc's pushed those tyres too early, and he's got some graining, I could see, on his front left in particular. So he's pushed too early, not got them up to temperature, and that's probably one of the reasons why he's falling back now. Lando Norris has got past Pierre Gasly. That will release him to charge down his championship rival, and Gasly's going to lose another place. So Yuki Tsunoda, is he going to brave it round the outside of turn 3? No, so Gasly keeps the position.
It all gets a little bit tight between the two former teammates of Gasly and Tsunoda. Tsunoda having to bail out in his RB. He's now got pressure from Lewis Hamilton behind. Hamilton moves out to the right-hand side. Tsunoda covers him. Hamilton has to bail out and holds on to 8th for the time being. Then comes Oscar Piastri, now down to 9th, having lost that fight with Lewis Hamilton. Russell leads the way on lap 9 of 50. Sainz second, and Max Verstappen performing wonderfully, now up into third on a weekend where they have been on the back foot. Charles Leclerc, has he gone too soon? Has he used up the life he had in his tyres trying to take on Russell for the lead? He's now lost 2 positions in the last 3 laps. He's down to 4th. Norris is 5th. Gasly, then this battle that we're watching and listening to, Tsunoda and Hamilton in the battle of 7th and 8th.
Something's very wrong with that Ferrari, whether it's tyres or not, I don't know, but he's losing a second per sector at the moment to the cars around him. He's going to be closed in by Lando Norris very quickly at this rate as well.
Did go quite wide when he was having a battle with George Russell, so I wonder at some point if and he's been called into the box already, and the sound you can hear is looking back from Yuki Tsunoda, and an easy move for Lewis Hamilton round the outside with the aid of DRS into turn 14. His next victim is going to be Pierre Gasly, who's under a lot of pressure in the Alpine from his competitors around him. Lando Norris has steamed through. It's now Hamilton all over the back as they fly past our commentary box window, and Lando Norris is being called into the box as well.
So too is Charles Leclerc, who will box ahead of him. They're heading towards Rosanna Tenen.
And he's stopped, and up and down, and on go the hard tyres, the white tyres, and he's back out into the fast lane. And another quick stop as well for Lando Norris. Both the Ferraris and the McLarens a standing still time of 2.5 seconds. But people pouring into the pits now. We thought those medium tyres were going to last until around lap 14. They've only managed 10 laps.
They certainly have. Albon pitted also, so as well as Lance Stroll. They've all filtered their way to the back now.
And looking at some graining on Max Verstappen's car, and their pace, Harry, was shocking on the medium tyre. But this Red Bull, they've got it sorted. It's come to life now in the race. There's a little feather out of the throttle from Max Verstappen in the dirty air of Carlos Sainz, who's being called into the box as well. A penalty for Oscar Piastri. That's 5 seconds added to his pit stop time. And Carlos Sainz is now going to bleed into the pits and release Max Verstappen, who jumps up into second place.
Yeah, but even if he wasn't going to come into the pits, Max Verstappen is looking mighty with the aid of DRS, cruising up to the side of Carlos Sainz as they make their way down the 1.9 kilometre Las Vegas strip as they get into the braking zone. Sainz doesn't fight that one hard, and Verstappen is now up into second.
Sainz had lost 2 seconds to George Russell in one lap on the previous lap. It must be the tyres on the Ferrari, and here he comes into the pit, Sainz.
Sainz then with the sparks flying from the underside of that Ferrari as he tries to slow down to the pit lane speed limit, hits the brakes and will be greeted by Rosanna Tennant.
And it's a bit of a curvy entrance to the pit lane, but he manages to find his pit box. The mechanics are ready waiting for him. Up he goes. Looked a little slower to me. Let me find out. Oh, it was actually a little faster. Shows what I know. 2.3 second stop for Carlos Sainz. And the other McLaren of Oscar Piastri comes in. Of course, he's got that penalty as well. He is being waited on, and now the mechanics go to work. Pierre Gasly's been in. He was standing still for 3.3 seconds. And also Yuki Tsunoda in the RB as well. So that was a long pit stop for Oscar Piastri, as you would expect, with that penalty for the full start. And Alice, I think you're right. I think he was just a little over that front white line of the box.
Yeah, the drivers use a yellow line that's to line up their front tyre on, and he is certainly past that. So a rookie error from Oscar Piastri there, but it's not the first time, and it won't be the last time that happens.
Now what we've got to watch out for now is the pace of the people on the hard tyres who've just come into the pits versus the people on the medium tyres. The hard is a much better race tyre than the medium. Can the likes of Leclerc, Sainz and so on make up that deficit that they've lost in that first stint on those when the mediums went off so quickly on their cars?
Well, one man who started on the hard tyre was Sergio Perez in the other Red Bull. He's now worked his way up to 7th once those have all pitted. His teammate Max Verstappen is now being told to box. The gap between Verstappen and Russell, who lead this race, is 9.2 seconds as the other Red Bull is lining up a move on the other Sauber of Zhou Guanyu. Perez makes that look easy, but those hard tyres then, and will it pay off for the Mexican driver who started down in 15th, putting on those hard tyres to start this race on, playing the longer game, and now reaping the rewards perhaps. He's up to 6th place. Rosanna, Verstappen's in.
He is in, and the mechanics were ready for him. The tyres go on, and he's back out incredibly quickly. The Dutch driver back into the fast lane of the pit lane, and he was stationary for 2 seconds. Incredible work. The start of a triple header. The mechanics are fantastic. He's going to come out in traffic, though. This is not what Verstappen is. He's snaking over the road a little bit, and he's come out in the melee.
He absolutely has. He's come out behind his teammate, behind Magnussen, and behind Bottas as well, right in the thick of it, Alice.
Yeah, not a great call from Red Bull, and if I was Max, I'd be on the blower saying, guys, you've released me into traffic, as Carlos Sainz desperately trying to get past the Williams of Franco Colapinto in front. Lando Norris, though, he's on fire, just set the fastest lap of the race from anybody. Of course, he has boxed at the moment, and Lewis Hamilton, out of those that are yet to pit, he is the fastest driver out there. He is setting faster lap times than his teammate George Russell in front of him, but he's not going to be in front of him for very long, Harry, as George is summoned to the pit lane to have a tyre change as well.
15 seconds the gap between Russell and Hamilton. A pit stop is about 21 seconds, Rosanna.
George Russell has been called in, but this is a bit of an interesting one, because coming into this race we weren't sure that the undercut was going to be that powerful. It takes quite a while for these hard tyres to come in. Andrew's right, though, it's a better race tyre, but perhaps it will take a while for the tyre to start to come up to performance. I'm seeing a lot of debris, guys. There's a lot of debris flying around here in the paddock. You can see it on the track as well. Max Verstappen now making a move on the Haas car. Ahead of him, Kevin Magnussen. He's going to get that job done. George Russell's in. The stop time for him, 2.4, a little bit slower than the Red Bull team were able to do to for Verstappen. He is back out and running. I'm just getting a little shot of him now. He's exiting the pit lane, and it's now Lewis Hamilton that leads this race.
I think those hard tyres are already in, Rosanna. Lando Norris set the fastest lap on the last lap, and there's a big battle going on between him, Verstappen, Sainz and Leclerc mixed in with these back markers.
This is really hindering, sorry Harry, Max Verstappen massively, and the Ferraris playing into the hands of George Russell, and it also might help Lewis Hamilton. He's just set the fastest first sector of anybody in this race, and he is not boxed yet. He's still on old medium tyres, 13-lap old medium tyres, as Lando Norris has now made his way past Franco Colapinto. And it looked like as well, Rosanna, I don't know if you can get down there and Aston Martin, but a mix-up with pit stop there, a late call for one of them to come in. I think that was Lance Stroll, yes.
Yeah, the mechanics had a bit of confusion running in and out of the garage, and Lance was stationary for quite some time. Finally got him going, but that was not ideal for Lance Stroll, who's already had issues this weekend with an electrical issue, an ERS issue, and traffic in the pit lane as well between an Alpine and an RB. It's all go down here, and the RB taking a bit of furniture with him, crashing into the bollard.
I think it might have been Tsunoda versus Gasly on that front. Tsunoda taking the pit lane speed limit board with him as they exit the pits. Okay, this traffic is really causing a little bit of havoc for those catching themselves in it. Perez has just got through on Hülkenberg up to third. Hülkenberg now down to fourth. Then comes Verstappen. Sainz is sixth. Magnussen is seventh, and Leclerc is eighth. But the Ferraris are chomping at the bit here to try and make their way through. They have now done so. Sainz and Leclerc following through on Kevin Magnussen. Lando Norris in the McLaren will be the next driver to try and get through on the Danish driver through the left-hand flat-out corner that ends the lap of turn 17 and into the turn 1 that beckons, and Lewis Hamilton, who has just pitted, will emerge just behind the McLaren and slots in ahead of his old teammate Valtteri Bottas. Hamilton now on the hard tyre, feeds out into 9th place. Russell still leads this race by 4.5 seconds.
What a stint by Lewis Hamilton, because he's gained a couple of places in this pit stop, and he's now right on the back. He can challenge quite easily for a podium here, Harry. He's on the back of Lando Norris, and Lando Norris is desperately trying to get past Kevin Magnussen. He sends it down the inside into turn 7. Nicely done by him, using all the inside curb available to hook him round to help save some tyres and get a launch out of the corner. But there's a lot of traffic, a lot of fighting for this position. Here's Lewis Hamilton.
What the hell, man? How many places have I just lost?
Well, actually, you've gained, really, Lewis. You've lost a lot in terms of those in front of you that not pitted, but he certainly has been a gain for him. He's probably more frustrated. He's released into traffic, but that was the same for Verstappen and the two Ferraris and Lando Norris, for that matter. But he's going to make a move, Harry.
He certainly is. Lines up the Haas side by side with Magnussen, and it should be fairly easy work for Hamilton with the DRS. Magnussen does not get it, and as they make their way into the braking zone, Hamilton has now got up into 8th. Further back, though, the RB of Yuki Tsunoda trying to claw his way back into the points, having started up in 7th. We're still waiting for a couple of drivers to pit, so they are a little bit out of order in the sequence. Hülkenberg has just pitted for Haas, so I'm sure we could expect Magnussen soon. That promotes Leclerc.
We would have dropped another 5 places if we'd hung it out any longer.
That's Pete Bonington on the radio to Lewis Hamilton, justifying their reasoning for pitting. Hamilton is now in 7th, only a second now behind Lando Norris, who is 6th, and Norris also has the fastest lap. It's Russell, though, who leads on lap 15 of 50 of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. If you're just waking up expecting breakfast for Chris and Ellie, they will be following us at the conclusion of the checkered flag here in Las Vegas under the lights for the beginning of the finale that finishes off this Formula One season. After this, we go to Qatar and Abu Dhabi to finish things. But right now, this is the first weekend where Max Verstappen could become a 4-time world champion. All he has to do is finish ahead of Lando Norris. Right now, that is the case. Verstappen is 3rd, Norris is down in 6th. Russell leads. Perez, who started on the hard tyre, hasn't pitted. He's in 2nd. Then it's Verstappen. The two Ferraris, Sainz ahead of Leclerc, the top 5. Then comes Norris in 6th. Hamilton, Magnussen, Bottas, Tsunoda, the top 10.
And just looking at the lap time here from Gasly.
Low power. Engine issue.
Low.
Everything's looking okay for us. We hit the limiter.
So hit the limiter. So frustrated Pierre Gasly there. The team saying that he's hit the limiter. going up the upshift, but he feels not. But sorry, I was just going to touch on the lap times, Harry. Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz all faster than Max Verstappen, and actually Lewis Hamilton...
No power, it absolutely is. Sorry, Alice. Big puff of smoke coming out of the back of the Alpine of Pierre Gasly as he comes out of the Las Vegas Strip, then peels over into the pit lane. He'll make it back, but I think he was right. No power in that Alpine as he feeds back into the pit lane.
This is not ideal for their championship constructors. Fight with Williams and fight with Haas as well as the Alpine mechanics.
You can hear the disappointment there, Alice. They had such a good result that could have been on the cards, but the chips have not fallen the way of Pierre Gasly and Alpine under the lights in Vegas this evening.
Yeah, huge frustration for them. Lewis Hamilton, fastest of anyone in the first sector, and just set the fastest lap of the race. Oscar Piastri's trying to make his way further up the grid. He slides past Valtteri Bottas. A battle continued between Kevin Magnussen and Yuki Tsunoda. They'll have a fight as sparks fly out from the back of the car. They head through into turn 12. They then swing left up onto the Las Vegas Strip, flat out for 1.92 kilometres, and a battle between Sainz and Leclerc.
Well, Sainz has just got through on Perez, who is now down to fourth. Verstappen got through on his teammate up into second. Sainz third, Perez fourth. Leclerc battling hard now in fifth, just ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who has just got through on Lando Norris, who is now down to seventh. Hamilton with a great lap, the fastest lap of the race so far. He currently holds that with the extra point to boot as well, if he can hold on to it until the end of this race. Then just behind Hamilton is Norris, followed by Tsunoda, who is now ahead of Magnussen. Piastri rounds out the top 10. It looks like we've lost one driver from this race in the form of Pierre Gasly in the Alpine with suspected engine problems, but the fights are still happening out on track. Sergio Perez in the other Red Bull, who started all the way down in 15, put the hard tyre on. That would go longer into this race. He hasn't pitted. He's holding on to fourth, but now Charles Leclerc ducking and diving behind Perez manages to get the move done through the sweeping left-hander of 6, and now is ahead of the Mexican. Leclerc up to fourth.
Lewis Hamilton's almost pushing Perez along there as they head through to 8, 9, and then they'll sweep through into turn 10. Lovely, beautiful move by Charles Leclerc. Nice switchback on Sergio Perez, and as you said, Harry, is one of very few to have not taken into the pits. He's going to be a sitting duck as he gets so close to the exit barrier of turn 12. He's going to have DRS from Leclerc in front, but Lewis Hamilton is going to sweep round the outside of him, and a very easy move. Lando Norris is not quite close enough to follow through, but just to put it in perspective, Lewis Hamilton's pace is incredible. 9/10 quicker than George Russell. Of course, he could be tyre saving, but he's 1.5 seconds quicker at the moment than Max Verstappen, who's sitting in second place.
Perez is losing positions now, though, with his tyres giving up the ghost slightly. It's lap 18 of 50. Hamilton now up to fifth. Norris followed suit through sixth. Perez now down to seventh. And Hamilton, though, is closing, as you say, absolutely rapid. He's got 4 seconds to catch up to Carlos Sainz, who's in third. Leclerc in between the two of them at the moment. It's Russell who leads Verstappen by 10 seconds. Sainz, Leclerc, Hamilton the top 5 as Red Bull call it in for Sergio Perez to change tyres.
I'm wondering if this is going to end up being a two-stop race, you know. Perez has only done 18 laps on those hard tyres at the start of the race. Leclerc, Hamilton, everybody, all the leaders have done very few laps on the medium. Could easily go to two stops here.
Certainly could, and we're just seeing a replay of Max Verstappen being let through by his teammate, of course, Sergio Perez, to sweep through. But the pace that these two at the front are doing is fairly similar, and the sound you can hear, if you listen, that is not a healthy Renault engine as smoke poured out the back, and that's the end, of course, of Pierre Gasly's race, and it's burned parts of the bodywork. He's jumping out of the car. He did stay in to see if there was any hope of getting him back out, but big devastation for them. Visor down from Pierre. He's not happy at all. He'll have to trudge down to the FIA garage, get weighed, and that's day over for him, Harry.
Big fight as well in the Constructors' Championship over that 6th place. We'll come back to that, though, because Lewis Hamilton is now eyeing up 4th place. Charles Leclerc. Leclerc takes the racing line, coming in to the left-hander. The sparks fly from the underside of that Ferrari. Here's his teammate Sainz.
If it's going to be plenty, because it changes everything.
Copy. Give us 2 laps and we come back to you.
Plan C, and this changes everything, but the Ferrari pit wall need 2 laps to confirm what they do. Hamilton wasn't able to get by Charles Leclerc on that run, but it sounds like it's ominous. Plan C, Andrew, is that the suspected 2-stop?
I'm guessing that is, and what science is saying is I need to know now, because I need to know how much I need to manage these tyres. Can I push or can I not push? Or am I going to have to pit or am I not going to pit? So they're all thinking about that actively at the moment.
Lap 19 of 50. George Russell leads by 9.9 seconds to Max Verstappen, who, if it ends like this, would become a 4-time world champion. Carlos Sainz is third ahead of Charles Leclerc, who is getting a lot of pressure at the moment from Lewis Hamilton, who has worked his way from 10th up into 5th. Then comes Lando Norris, who's currently not doing enough to keep his title hopes alive to Qatar next week. He's down in 6th. Tsunoda, Piastri, Albon, Fernando Alonso round out the top 10. We've lost one driver in Pierre Gasly in the Alpine, who started 3rd and was hoping for a brilliant result under the lights in Vegas tonight, but it's not going to happen for the Frenchman, for the French team, with the engine blowing out, having to come into the pits. He's out of the car and safe, but not very happy with how his Las Vegas night is going. But it is all starting to kick off. It's been frenetic from the very start, illuminated by the neon signage that surrounds this track in Nevada, in the entertainment capital of the world. And so far we are being treated to an absolutely enthralling race that could now turn into a 2-stop when it comes to pitting twice. What we thought might be a 1-stop, now changing.
Nico Hülkenberg has just moved himself up into the points. He's gone past Fernando Alonso, who boxed, I think it was after lap 4 or 5. He started on the soft tyre, took a risk to try and get that launch and gain some places at the start, but didn't, for now at least, pay off. Now, Lewis Hamilton's going to have DRS as he goes down into turn 5. He fills the mirrors of Charles Leclerc, but no opportunity, no way past. He'll have to settle and wait for another opportunity later on in this lap, which will likely be that run down the Las Vegas Strip. DRS will be enabled for him there, but he's fastest still of anybody set of overall in the race. Purple in the first sector. He's looking mighty, and actually, even though the tyres are getting older, pretty much everyone on this lap currently has set a personal best, Harry.
Well, they certainly are. They are absolutely coming alive now as they make their way through the sweeping left hand of turn 11, a touch on the brakes into the left hander of turn 12 that leads you down that famous boulevard, past Caesar's Palace, past the Paris Hotel featuring the Eiffel Tower. The Venetian, the world's largest hotel, looms over the circuit as they race down to speeds of up to 350 kilometres an hour before touching onto the brakes into the left-hander of turn 14. This is where the DRS zone is. Hamilton not able to close up to the back of Charles Leclerc. There's 0.6 of a second between them as they feed out through 15 and 16 down Harmon Avenue, half a mile straight that leads you to the flat-out left-hand kink of turn 17 and back onto the start-finish straight. Lap 21 of 50, and Charles Leclerc is still ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Leclerc 4th, Hamilton 5th.
Lando Norris cannot keep with those two drivers you just mentioned in with them, Harry. 2.3 is the gap now, and he was nearly a second slower than them both on that last lap, as again Lewis Hamilton looks to go down the inside of Charles Leclerc at turn 5, but not able to do so. But Hamilton needs to try and clear Leclerc. I feel he's got the legs on Leclerc, but Leclerc's doing everything right. Toto Wolff did mention to Rosanna down on the grid before the start of the race that they're not great in a straight line, and that certainly is one of the Ferrari's strengths, but he's looking a little bit closer. This time round they go through turn 10 and then they'll come flying through into turn 11 before Hamilton gets another opportunity to attack down the Las Vegas Strip.
Hamilton chasing Charles Leclerc. Hamilton, who was so frustrated after qualifying, could have been pole.
Still the preferred for now is plan A for now. Plan A, less graining kick in.
Okay, plan A for Carlos Sainz for now, unless the graining kicks in. So they think they might be able to hold on to this hard tyre for the rest of the race. We're on lap 22 of 50. We're not even at halfway distance yet. That will come, of course, in a couple of laps' time. Sainz is 2.3 seconds back on Max Verstappen, who's holding firm at about 10 seconds behind George Russell, who is doing a magnificent job at leading this race. It's Russell, Verstappen, Sainz, Leclerc, Hamilton. That is the top 5. Then comes Lando Norris in 6th. Yuki Tsunoda is 7th for RB, ahead of Piastri, Albon and Nico Hülkenberg. Now, there is a ferocious fight going on for 6th in the Constructors' Championship, and you can tell because the frustration was so much in Pierre Gasly's voice, now retired. If it ends like this, Alpine would lose 6th place in the Constructors' Championship after their double podium last time out, and RB would head back up courtesy of 1 point. They've got Tsunoda in the points at the moment. We'll keep a track of that one. Verstappen, if it were to end like this, would become a 4-time world champion too. All he has to do is finish ahead of Lando Norris. If Norris wants to keep things going to Qatar, he has to outscore Max Verstappen by at least 3 points.
Now, the Ferrari drivers were told which plan they're sticking to, and that has clearly released some energy into them, enabled them to go even quicker. They have both set a personal best, and Sainz fastest overall of anybody in the first sector, eking down the gap now to Max Verstappen in front of him, riding on board at the moment with Lewis Hamilton. DRS wide open, he flies down the strip. He looks fairly close, but I don't think he's going to be close enough if they jump on the brakes into turn 14. I'm surprised we've had no one really lock up going into here so far during the race, Harry. It's been a common occurrence here from Norris.
In front right, looks like he's about to go any lap.
So struggling Lando Norris with tyre degradation on his front tyres, but it's been a common thing of drivers locking up into turn 14. Everyone's kept it clean for now. Lewis Hamilton has just set another fastest lap of the race, and this trio of cars of Sainz, Leclerc, Hamilton, they have the legs on those in front of him, and the gap is coming down. They're all getting closer to Max Verstappen.
A little further back, just on the fringes of the top 10, by the way, Nico Hülkenberg has just made a lovely pass on Alex Albon, the Haas driver, now to 9th.
And he's down the fastest straight.
Well, I think he echoes your sentiments there, Alice. They are fast on the straight. That's Lewis Hamilton's radio referring to Charles Leclerc as they race underneath the sphere, which is illuminated in red with Charles Leclerc's face all over it, fist pumping the air. Himself enjoying keeping Lewis Hamilton behind, it seems.
Don't worry, Lewis, you'll be in one of those cars next year, and you'll have the speed down the straight, or at least he hopes it will still be there next year. We're looking at the moment, the sound you can hear is Lando Norris, and he is unfortunately going to be on the way to losing that battle between Max Verstappen in the Drivers' Championship. Now, Harry, Lewis Hamilton looks even closer this time round. They're on the strip, flat out. DRS will fly open about halfway down. He's looking close, Harry.
That drag reduction system, the rear wing is activated, it's open, it gives you about a 9/10 of a second advantage to the car in front. You can only use it when you're within a second of the car in front. It allows Hamilton to close up into the braking zone of turn 14, then threads the needle out through the right-hand kink of 15, shoots through 16 now down Harman Avenue, flies past our commentary box round the final corner. Hamilton able to get close, but still unable to find a way past the Ferrari in front of him. Charles Leclerc holding on to 4th, just half a second splitting him and the Mercedes behind over 4th and 5th position. We're coming up to halfway distance in this race.
Leclerc slightly wide there at turn 3. Track limits is enforced there. I think he just about kept it within. But he looks like he's having a battle with his car. He's so close to the wall on the exit there of turn 5. Hamilton looks a lot more comfortable in his Mercedes. He's just set another fastest overall first sector out of anybody. These two drivers are pushing themselves along, clawing the gap in lap by lap to Max Verstappen. Hamilton is going to have a really, really good chance here, Harry, if he just keeps this gap 0.4 of a second separating the two at the moment. Driving on slightly different lines, Lewis Hamilton taking a slightly tighter line, and that is purely to try and get some clean air onto his front wing to help the turn-in of his car. As they come onto the Las Vegas Strip, the gap half a second. Lewis Hamilton opens up the DRS, tucks in nicely behind the Ferrari. He's going to stay there to the very last minute, ducks out to try and put so much pressure on Leclerc to try and distract him, fill his future teammate of Charles Leclerc, to try and force him into a mistake, but it's not possible.
Well, Hamilton looking at the back of his future teammate, as you say, Alison, unable to find a way through Leclerc and that Ferrari in a straight line, just slightly unbeatable right now. Russell leads this race still by 10 seconds to Max Verstappen. Then comes Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc in 4th. Hamilton behind in 5th. Norris is 6th. Tsunoda, Piastri, Hülkenberg and Albon are the point scorers. They're the top 10. Then it's Zhou Guanyu in 11th ahead of Fernando Alonso. Sergio Perez has just picked off Liam Lawson. 13th for Perez, 14th for Lawson, then comes Ocon in 15th. Stroll, Colapinto, Magnussen and Bottas, the 19 drivers that remain in this race. Just the one retirement so far in the form of Pierre Gasly's Alpine.
Hamilton will be frustrated sitting behind Charles Leclerc, looking a little bit further back. Oscar Piastri's been able to maintain his top 8 position. He's had that penalty, of course. He's all over the back of Yuki Tsunoda. 0.6 of a second is the gap, so he'll be looking to try and get through and past Yuki, and then his teammate will be a further 11 seconds down the road from him. So the gaps are fairly spread out in terms of looking at the front between the top 2, and then we all go down through to Lando Norris and Yuki Tsunoda, 10 seconds separating those two. Lewis Hamilton has backed off, it seems, from Charles Leclerc, whether there's been a mistake, but the gap has closed between Sainz and Leclerc. Yeah,
it's Charles Leclerc actually now closing on to the back of his teammate Carlos Sainz in that battle for the final place on the podium. That is starting to brew quite nicely. Here's Albon in 10th.
Got a turbo problem here. We need to retire the car.
Sounds like it was a turbo problem, they're saying on Alex Albon's radio. We'll need to retire the car for the Thai driver, who is currently running in a points position. Crucial points for Williams, who've had such a mission on their hands over the last few races, with lots of crash damage having to be repaired. A retirement for Albon is not the way he would want to repay his team. Into the pits, though, is Oscar Piastri, who comes in for McLaren. He's now going to fall down the field slightly. The McLaren team get to work and set him on his way with another set of the hard tyre and drop out of the points, but opting then for a second pit stop then for Oscar Piastri as he feeds out just behind the remaining Williams of Franco Colapinto. Piastri out in 15th. We've just surpassed halfway distance here in Las Vegas, racing around that iconic strip in Nevada. We're setting you up for a brilliant day of sport here on 5 Live. Action in the Premier League between, well, the top of the league taking on the bottom of the league from 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Get off these tyres.
The sign says, let's get off these tyres. It's Southampton taking on Liverpool later on. Ipswich Town taking on Man United as well from 4:30. But here in Las Vegas, it's now Charles Leclerc taking on Carlos Sainz. The 2 Ferrari drivers going toe-to-toe. Leclerc looked like he was having a nice dive down the inside at the end of the strip, but Sainz was able to hold on to it, and they're bringing Hamilton along with them. But Hamilton, who was applying pressure on Charles Leclerc for so long, has fallen behind now.
Verstappen's been called into the pit lane, and I've just noticed and Charles Leclerc's gone slightly wide. He's trying to get past his teammate. I'm so surprised that Sainz didn't allow Leclerc to go past at the end of the strip there, because they're causing them, both of them, damage. Clearly Sainz has not got the pace. That's allowed Lewis Hamilton to storm up to the back of them once again. However, I did notice Lewis Hamilton drove over a plastic bag. I was waiting to see it appear out the back of the Mercedes, but it didn't. So hopefully for Lewis Hamilton, it's not stuck in a brake duct or gone down into the side pods. But looking back now on Charles Leclerc, let's hear from Sainz.
Box me, guys, box me.
He needs boxing, but he needs to release his teammate, because it's not going to fare well, because Hamilton now is all over the back, Harry, of Charles Leclerc.
Racing through the right-hand sweeper of 10 into the left-hand sweeper of 11. Sainz then struggling on these tyres. He wants to come in. Box for Carlos Sainz. That means he wants to come into the pit stop and change his tyres. Charles Leclerc holding Lewis Hamilton behind. But now, as the 2 Ferraris have been fighting, Hamilton is back on the rear of Charles Leclerc over 4th place. Sainz is being told to swap positions. He does pull out the way on towards the braking zone of the Las Vegas strip. Will Hamilton get through as well? Leclerc goes through. Sainz just holds on and stops Hamilton from following Leclerc through. But will Sainz now dive into the pits as they race towards the entry? Carlos Sainz does, and you know what? Lewis Hamilton follows suit, and Sainz bails out last minute, crosses the exit line. Meanwhile, Rosanna, Hamilton's in, so too Verstappen.
Verstappen is in and out. His pit stop's already been made. A slow stop for him, 3.4 seconds. Lewis Hamilton in just in front of him. A much faster stop for the Mercedes crew, 2.6 seconds. And Verstappen leads Hamilton out of the pits. Is that because Mercedes think they're actually racing Verstappen and perhaps are on for a bit of a better result?
I would say so, Rosanna, but back to Sainz, that's a mistake from Sainz. I don't think he had the grip. He's out on the dusty part of the track, went to turn in as it's not a straight and simple pit entry, and just didn't have any grip on the front, Harry. Couldn't get the car slowed down and had to bail out, otherwise it was into the Armco barrier, which is right in front of our commentary box window here, so there could be a penalty coming Sainz' way.
Wow, dramatic scenes then under the lights in Las Vegas between Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton, both going into the pits, and Sainz not able to keep it in the pit lane entry, had to abort action, and I hope we can get another look at it soon. We'll try and bring you up to speed with it. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen has been out there after his pit stop and cutting the corner, not able to get his tyres straight up to temperature, providing him that grip he so needs. It's Russell who leads Charles Leclerc now, first and second. Max Verstappen has pitted and lost position then. So Russell, though, still doing all he can, and he is way out in front with no one hurting him. We just get another look, Alice, at the pit lane entry incident, and Andrew, both Sainz and Hamilton were making a beeline for the pits.
I don't know, I think he deliberately chose to miss the pits there. I think they called him. Here's some radio from Sainz.
We're not ready.
Wake up, guys, come on.
There you go, I think he got a message from Ferrari saying don't pit, don't pit.
But that's surely a penalty, no? For crossing the pit entry line. It was changed over the weekend with some marker boards being put out because the drivers were complaining that they couldn't see. I mean, Ferrari have woken up now. He has come into the pits and he's out on a brand new set of hard tyres, but I agree, Ferrari have not been on the ball here, Harry, and they could have potentially thrown away a double podium for the team. Sainz is under pressure from Yuki Tsunoda, so Sainz has come out in 6th place. Norris, of course, hasn't pitted yet. Again, neither has George Russell or Charles Leclerc.
And you know how much this means for not only Carlos Sainz as he begins his farewell tour with Ferrari. He makes way for Lewis Hamilton next year with that fantastic win in Mexico a few weeks ago. He wants to be able to get on the podium and clinch crucial points too, not only for himself but for Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship as they chase McLaren down. And right now, Ferrari bagging bigger points than McLaren. Charles Leclerc is second, Lando Norris is third, then comes Verstappen, Hamilton is fifth, Sainz now out of the pits is in sixth, Tsunoda, Hülkenberg, Perez and Zhou, the top 10, they are your point scorers.
I think that we're going to see a Mercedes 1-2 here. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but it's looking that way at the moment. Lewis Hamilton's absolutely set an on-fire first sector, and he is clawing his way back up to Max Verstappen. At the start of the lap, the gap was 2.3. Currently, it's 1.6. So we were going to have some 2021 vibes here of a great battle between Max Verstappen.
Sainz understandably saying wake up, because Ferrari wandering from the garage to the pit lane has cost him a position, and Hamilton, they were keeping him at bay. He's got a rapid car, he's got the fastest lap of the race, but they were in position to fight him and they've gifted him a way through.
And now he's unleashed to go and attack Verstappen. Leclerc is going longer and he is now jumped by Hamilton as well, so this has worked really well for Lewis Hamilton. Ferrari indecision in the pit stop for Sainz. Even the delay in swapping the positions, Sainz and Leclerc held Leclerc back, and the gap from Leclerc to Russell is over 16 seconds as George is still driving very cleanly out front. But Hamilton is now staring at a net second place because surely Leclerc is not going to go to the end.
Yeah, and then Mercedes is on fire, and Hamilton, well, within the lap, he's going to be right up the chuff of that Red Bull.
So 2 retirements from the Grand Prix, Pierre Gasly in the Alpine and Alex Albon in the Williams. You have Hülkenberg currently in 7th place to close down that gap in the Constructors' Championship outside the top 5. There is a Constructors' battle going on for first position between Ferrari and McLaren. You've got the 3rd place team, Red Bull, in 4th and 8th at the moment. Piastri currently running out of the points, and Norris needs to make his 2nd stop. A finely poised Grand Prix of plenty of overtakes so far. We're on lap 31 of 50. This is Lando Norris coming in to make that 2nd stop. and he scrubs off the speed, gets it down to the speed limit, and he will hope that his team are out there. The relief to see his mechanics standing by as Norris comes into the pits, and Hamilton is promoted up to 4th now. He's inside DRS, fighting up against Max Verstappen.
Yeah, I don't think Max will put up too much of a fight in this one. He'll be looking at the bigger picture of the Drivers' Championship. And meanwhile, look, we've got to give... how much praise can we put on George Russell? We're not seeing him because he's out there all on his own. There's so much action going on in this Grand Prix. But he is driving beautifully.
And Leclerc's dropping back now. He's been fighting for a while, had Hamilton on his tail. Maybe just damaged the tyres enough so when he's finally got the clear air, he was a second slower than Russell on the last lap. Hamilton on fresh tyres, he's in the mood today, isn't he, Lewis Hamilton? He blamed himself for, well, it was the 2 errors that he had in Q3 yesterday. As Verstappen gets so close to that barrier, that's going to compromise his exit. And we jump on board a Mercedes that is going to have a nice run on what is not as quick a car as a Ferrari in the straight.
Charles Leclerc has been called to the pits from 2nd place, so this is now the battle for P2. Lewis Hamilton's got the speed. Look at the speed he has got, 216 miles per hour, and he moves up to 3rd. That will become 2nd, and it will shake out to be a Mercedes 1-2. No contest between the two greats, Verstappen and Hamilton, as Hamilton gets by, having started 10th on the grid. He's gone past everyone, past his teammate, and Charles Leclerc comes into the pits. New fastest lap of the race for Lewis Hamilton, who will be ruining those 2 errors in Q3, because it's a 32-second gap to George Russell, and realistically, if things had gone to plan, they would have started 8 meters apart. Now, one Ferrari with cold tyres, one Ferrari with fired up tyres, one Ferrari with a fired up driver, and Sainz will get the inside line and 4th position as he goes past Charles Leclerc. These two have been passing and repassing all day.
Max, just don't lose sight of our aim today here.
Yeah, I think that message would have been played in before Hamilton got the pass on him, so slightly delayed on that, but isn't it incredible? Despite the fact he's a 3-time world champion, the part engineer, part sports psychologist feels the need to just say, big picture, Max.
Well, they've had plenty of moments, haven't they? Verstappen and Hamilton. So of everyone that is about to take the fight to Max Verstappen today, I'm sure GP was thinking, oh no, it's Lewis. Remember Budapest this year, we had Brazil a couple of seasons ago, and then the whole of 2021. But no fight today from Verstappen against Hamilton. It is not the race that he needs to engage in.
Big moment for George Russell as he rejoins the fast lane. This is a strange situation for Russell to be in as he makes his stop. He pits from the lead, the crowd enjoying what they've seen from him so far. Why do I say it's a strange situation? Because George Russell, in the other races that he's won in Formula One, he beat Lewis Hamilton by around a second in Sao Paulo 2022 for his maiden victory. He picked up the pieces after Verstappen and Norris came together in Austria. He's never been miles out in front in this way in Formula One on his own, trying to seal what has been a superb drive so far, but he's been on his own all the way through. So a different type of race for our race leader, the lead Mercedes, by 11 seconds, as Hamilton will try and hammer into that advantage, try and turn it into a contest and give us a grandstand finish as Perez comes in again for a second stop.
I think Hamilton has got the pace if he wants it. I think that, yeah, he's going up against like for like, but Hamilton is fired up, so I expect to see that gap between him and Russell reduce.
The gap had gone up to 16 seconds, Russell to Leclerc, but Hamilton, as soon as he bolts on new tyres, remember he was stuck in behind Leclerc and we couldn't see for many laps exactly what he could unleash. Now he's got clear air, he's actually got more used tyres than Russell. Russell's got 5 laps pressure hard tyres to the end of the Grand Prix, so everything is in Russell's hands now to bring this one home, and Mercedes will not really want Hamilton to go and chase Russell. But we saw it in Spa, didn't we? A nice closing fight between them, and they let them fight it out.
Yeah, wonderful battle that went all the way to the last lap of that historic venue, only for George Russell to be the first winner in 30 years to be disqualified after winning the Grand Prix. It's been that type of season, and we've had the unexpected over and over and over again. And Mercedes being the class of the field was not what we expected when we started. Free practice 1 earlier in the Grand Prix, but it's what we've had. They are on course to top every session of the weekend.
You know what's a stat that I love is if Russell brings this home with 16 laps to go, all of the top 7 will have had multiple race wins this year. The top 7 out of 22 races. So that's at least 14 wins have been shared out amongst 4 different constructors, which shows what a season we've had. It's been so open weekend to weekend. Mercedes have been struggling. We've been wondering where their pace is at for the last half a dozen Grand Prix, since Spa pretty much. And then you turn up here to a cool race in Vegas and they've blown everyone off the park.
Yeah, to put that into context, George Russell couldn't get past Pierre Gasly in an Alpine for a number of laps back in Sao Paulo, our last Grand Prix, and Lewis Hamilton, DC, hasn't stood on the podium since he won the race in Belgium, and that was the last race before the summer break.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a drought that if you'd sort of been off on safari and had no television coverage from then, you'd be switching back on now and going, yep, normal order resumed, Hamilton right up at the front. But he's been out in the wilderness, but he's back.
If you've been on safari, you've missed a load of great Grand Prix as well. You should watch them back.
Yeah, well worth reliving this season that we thought was going to be another cakewalk for Max Verstappen. And he's on his way to the title once again, but we've had some incredible days across this year, and we've seen so much overtaking again today. It's a Mercedes 1-2 as we see a swap of position there for the RB, and that is Tsunoda going past Lawson. Didn't look like a contest at all. Tsunoda improving back to the points. He has made 2 stops, so that's important. Ocon's running a long stint. He will have to stop again. Joe, long stint. He will have to stop again. Hulkenberg has come in and made that stop, and Tsunoda really nicely placed in this Grand Prix in that battle, up against Haas, up against Alpine for 6th, and all the lovely dollars that it pays out as a result. In for that second stop comes Zhou Guanyu. Left-hand side of your screen, you're on board with Carlos Sainz, who is 2.9 seconds away from Verstappen, and that confusion for Ferrari has cost him the chance of getting that gap down. Verstappen will be good at managing that. He'll want to celebrate a 4th World Championship from the podium.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to be able to celebrate the race as well as the championship. You take the championship if you have to, but it's nice to be spraying the champers as well at the end of a Saturday evening Grand Prix in Vegas. It's frustrating for Ferrari, who have once again got the driver's line astern. Leclerc was a bit quicker on the last lap. They haven't had the pace in the crucial moments, and they've not had the decisiveness that we've actually come used to them in the last couple of seasons, where they have been getting the strategy right. They've been having some clear calls when they've needed it. With title pressures now there for Ferrari, the championship potentially at stake, this time they've just been a bit sloppy, and 4th and 5th on a weekend where they were favourites coming in is not going to be a great return.
So Yuki Tsunoda currently in 9th position, trying to take the position away from the pink Alpine, and he will be to the inside, he will be through, and that's 8th position for the Japanese driver. When DC tells you to watch out for something, you better open your eyes.
Welcome back to Las Vegas. We're in Nevada. It's lap 36 of 50. Apologies for the technical difficulties that we have been experiencing. We're back in action though. George Russell still leads this race under the lights in Nevada by 8.9 seconds to Lewis Hamilton, his teammate, and Hamilton is fast. He's got the fastest lap now. Can he close up to the back of his teammate George Russell? Max Verstappen though is also only a further 4 seconds back and closing 2 in 3rd. Right now, if it were to end like this, Max Verstappen would become a 4-time world champion. The 2 Ferraris of Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc are 4th and 5th. Then come the 2 McLarens, Lando Norris in 6th, ahead of Piastri, Tsunoda, Ocon and Hulkenberg are the top 10. Then comes Lawson, Alonso, Magnussen, Perez is 14th, followed by Colapinto. Zhou Guanyu is 16th ahead of Lance Stroll. Valtteri Bottas is 18th and last last for Sauber, with just 2 retirements, Alex Albon in the Williams and Pierre Gasly in the Alpine, as the fights still continue, and Lewis Hamilton is lighting up the timing screens and going fast, but Charles Leclerc is also picking up the pace now too.
It could be a win for Lewis Hamilton potentially, but catching one is one thing, passing is another, but he is setting the world on fire. He knew, Harry, it was a missed opportunity yesterday. He could have got his 105th pole position yesterday. He was loving the car, but a small mistake through turn 3 cost him, but he's reeling in his teammate at the moment, Andrew.
This is an extraordinary performance by Lewis Hamilton so far. His tyres are 5 laps older than George Russell's. He's closing in. He's closed from 11.2 seconds to 8.7 seconds behind in 4 laps, and he's just set the fastest first sector. Could he win from 10th on the grid?
I mean, that would be hugely impressive, and saying he's set the fastest first sector of anybody, that's 3/10 quicker than his teammate. He's then a further 2/10 quicker than his teammate in the middle sector. We await for them to cross the line for the final sector, Harry, but this will be an incredible drive by Lewis Hamilton. When if he did win, it would have been his 106th win overall, and a great way to round out his final few races with Mercedes, who he's had so much success with in the past.
But could George Russell, when it comes to tyres, also, I know they're older, but could he be just managing the pace? He's got that gap, and he's had that gap from pretty much lap 1. Could he, if needed to, start to pick up the pace again?
Well, we don't know, Harry, but he's going to have to find out, because at the moment Hamilton's closing in at nearly a second a lap. So if he's going to speed it up, he's going to have to start doing it soon.
Yeah, it's just gone down to 7.8 seconds now. The gap is the battle for the win on between the 2 Mercedes drivers. Max Verstappen is 3rd, further 5 seconds back from the 2 Mercedes. Sainz, Leclerc, the top 5. Then there's some nice dicing down in the middle of the pack, 3 wide, coming through the left-hander, involving Sergio Perez, Liam Lawson and Kevin Magnussen. How they didn't come to blows there, I don't know. Perez comes out in front.
You can barely fit 2 cars side by side through there, Harry, but Perez stuck it down the inside, and Lawson tried to turn into the corner. Magnussen was on the outside and was probably thinking, well, turn, mate, turn into the corner, but he couldn't because he had a Red Bull down the inside there. But lovely move and brave stuff from Sergio Perez. And back to the watch at the front, Hamilton, another fastest first sector and middle sector, and you can hear, is riding on board with Sergio Perez. He looked right, he looked left, and he was just the latest of the late breakers. Slid down the inside. Is there contact? Just a small piece of contact between the 2 drivers as they went through there. Looking back from Liam Lawson now, there was definitely contact between him and Kevin Magnussen, a puff of tyre smoke, and good driving by all of those to avoid any kind of real collision, and certainly Magnussen had to bail right out of it, otherwise he would be into the wall. And guess what, Harry, another fastest lap of the race from Lewis Hamilton. That's quickly taken away by Carlos Sainz, and then quickly taken away by Charles Leclerc.
It is all kicking up. It is all kicking off, up and down the field. Must just say about Perez as well, going past Liam Lawson. Those 2 haven't been the friendliest since Liam Lawson returned to Formula 1, replacing Daniel Ricciardo after the Singapore Grand Prix. And Lawson very much in the frame to replace Sergio Perez next year in that team. So it's a good thing they all get on very well, down in 12th and 13th for Perez and Lawson. It's lap 39 of 50. We're racing under the lights in Las Vegas as we kick off the triple header that sees us to the end of this, the longest season in Formula 1 history. And from the get-go, George Russell started on pole and held the lead, had early fights with the 2 Ferraris of Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc, but Russell was able to have the better tyre management and able to shake off the Ferraris, who struggled, battling between each other and in the end falling back. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen, who started down in 5th place, had a nice steady start and has worked his way up into 3rd, picking off people and managing his tyres well. But it's Lewis Hamilton, who started down in 10th, who has been fast all weekend long.
You want me to try and keep them behind or what?
I think you should, yeah.
That's Verstappen. Do you want me to try and keep them behind, referring to the Ferraris, or not? Gianpiero Lambiase saying, yeah, probably so. It would be nice to take the championship on the podium, Max. He's currently 3rd, just on Lewis Hamilton. He could have taken pole yesterday. So frustrated he didn't. A mistake on his final lap. Didn't get his final run in. Now he's trying to make amends for that and to see out his season and his career with Mercedes before he departs to Ferrari next year off the back of one of his worst races in his Formula One career in Sao Paulo. Are we witnessing an absolutely mighty drive from Lewis Hamilton, who is setting another fastest lap, now just 7 seconds behind George Russell, who has to be said has also driven masterfully. The two Mercedes on form from the very off.
I think a little bit of time management from George Russell. He has upped the pace ever so slightly, but it's where Hamilton is getting George is in the first sector. He's getting most people in the first sector, doing a great job of navigating turns 1, 2, 3, 4 and then 5, and then that rounds out your first sector, and then they sweep through into the second sector. Max Verstappen, though, has got two charging Ferraris bearing down on the rear of his Red Bull. Instructions from the team to, I think we should try and keep them behind. That's probably the most casual instruction for a fight that we will hear in Formula One, at least for now. But there's no chance for the Ferraris to get through, at least at the moment. Lewis Hamilton enters into turn 14 as we then await for Max Verstappen and a pair of Ferraris coming in, and they are separated just by 1.5 seconds. So that we are going to have a great battle as we enter the final 10 laps of the race.
Indeed, 10 laps to go here in Las Vegas in what has been a sporting spectacle, not only on the track but off of it as well. It sets us up for a brilliant day of sport across 5 Live. We'll have Premier League action kicking off from 2 o'clock. Top of the league taking on the bottom of the league. It's Southampton against Liverpool, and then later on from 4:30 we'll have live coverage of Ipswich Town taking on Man United, and the first game for new manager Ruben Amorim. That all to come later on today on 5 Live. And if you are just waking up expecting breakfast, they will be on after us at the conclusion of the checkered flag. But who will take the win here in Las Vegas? Will it be George Russell, who has led every single lap so far, or will it be his chasing teammate Lewis Hamilton? Max Verstappen is in third, looking set to take his 4th world title. He's not closing up to the two Mercedes. Right now his focus is keeping the two hunting Ferraris behind him. Sainz and Leclerc lurking in his rear view mirrors.
Yeah, they certainly are. Come on to the strip, Harry, and Leclerc is tucked right up behind Max Verstappen. DRS is going to fly open. Max has been complaining about straight line speed all weekend. They had such a draggy car. They made adjustments to that rear wing on the Red Bull to try and help it. But looking back to the Ferrari, Charles Leclerc is storming up to the back of Max Verstappen, dives down the inside. Max concedes the corner, but he's going to come under attack from Carlos Sainz as they sweep through turn 16 into turn 17, fly past our commentary box window, and he's all over the back of Max Verstappen is Carlos Sainz. Is he going to have a little look down the inside? No, he doesn't. Just about does Max Verstappen hold the position. Indeed, it's Charles Leclerc chasing him through. Sainz made the move first, then Leclerc trying to make his way through, but not so much the case. Verstappen, I think that's one of the easiest moves anyone's ever made on Max Verstappen in a racing scenario. He didn't fight that one at all as Sainz came by. Verstappen thinking with that championship in mind, just wants to make it to the end and tick that off the list, because what a place to take your world championship, perhaps the best world championship for Max Verstappen en route for him. It's lap 42 of 50. Russell, Hamilton, Sainz, Verstappen, Leclerc, that's the top 5. Norris about 12 seconds adrift from that pack. There is nothing he can do to keep this title rolling on to Qatar as it currently stands. Piastri is 7th, Tsunoda looking to bag good points for RB in 8th, winning that battle for 6th in the constructors against Haas, who are 9th at the moment with Hülkenberg. Alonso currently scoring the final point in 10th. Sergio Perez desperately trying to get points on the board, but he's outside in 11th right now, ahead of Magnussen. Franco Colapinto, after his huge 50 G-force level crash in qualifying yesterday, given the all clear to race today. His teammate is out of the running with a retirement, but he's in a solid 13th place ahead of Esteban Ocon. Zhou Guanyu is 15th ahead of Lance Stroll. Liam Lawson is 17th, and Valtteri Bottas in the Sauber. It's the last of our runners. No Albon, as I mentioned, with it sounds like a turbo issue, and Pierre Gasly in the Alpine. We saw a big puff of smoke coming out the back of the Frenchman's car, and that was what put to end his Las Vegas Grand Prix. 18 cars left in the running.
streaming through the right-hander of turn 4, making their way down Koval Lane, a half-a-mile stretch that leads you to a slow 90-degree right-hander. It's Sainz, it's Verstappen, it's Leclerc, all together, 3rd, 4th and 5th.
On Lewis Hamilton and George Russell watch, Hamilton's dropping off the pace ever so slightly compared to his teammate. The gap at the moment is 5.4 seconds. But I don't think he's going to be close enough at all by the end of this race. It looks like he might have used up the best of his hard tyres. He does have the fastest lap of the race set several laps ago. Lando Norris now is looking to try and get fastest lap. He's just gone fastest of anybody in the first sector, but he's 11.6 seconds, Harry, behind this battle for the final podium position. So a hugely disappointing weekend for McLaren. Certainly going into the weekend, this was looking like a track that should favour them, but it's not turned out that way at all, and the gap has started to stretch a little bit at the top. George Russell has set a much better middle sector compared to Lewis Hamilton, has just set a personal best of the race. So maybe, just maybe, George Russell was saving his tyres, biding his time. He didn't need to push, he had the gap, he did all the hard work at the start, pulled out a gap, but this is still a great drive by Lewis Hamilton, who, don't forget, started in 10th place at the start of this race.
Yeah, a point to prove perhaps for Lewis Hamilton this weekend. Always one to fight back from adversity in the face of shelf life comments being made by Toto Wolff, and coming to light this weekend. They seem to have cleared the air between each other, but has that lit a fire in Lewis Hamilton in these final 3 races to get the absolute best and all he can out of the car he has been given. Russell, Hamilton, Sainz, Verstappen, Leclerc are still your top 5. The closest other battles out on track are a little further down. Yuki Tsunoda is in 8th, keeping Nico Hülkenberg is about half a second behind him at bay, and then Fernando Alonso is right behind them as well. So a nice battle brewing between 8th, 9th and 10th, and that will be crucial in the battle for 6th in the constructors. Right now, if it stands like this, even despite Alpine down 1 car and not in the points, they might just hold on to 6th in the constructors by only 1 point. Haas scoring a couple of points to their name. Indeed, it would be level with Haas and RB, both on 48 points, but count back would mean Haas go ahead of RB 7th and 8th. So constructors battles will roll on to Qatar next week and settle themselves in Qatar, in Abu Dhabi at the end of the year, at the start of December.
Small mistake from Max Verstappen heading into turn 14 is going to allow Charles Leclerc to close up onto the back of him once again as they cross the start-finish line, head down into turn 1. Not quite close enough to make an attack. He just ran slightly wide as hitting on the brakes after that long 1.92 kilometres straight, full throttle, one of the longest straights on the calendar. Lando Norris is still trying to gather pace and snatch the fastest lap point from Lewis Hamilton, and at the front 5 seconds is the gap, now 4.7 as we head into the final 5 laps of this race. Don't think Hamilton has got the pace enough, Harry, to close that gap down.
Meanwhile, a little further back though, Nico Hülkenberg is just absolutely wrestling his Haas car down the strip. Made a fantastic move with the aid of DRS to get himself ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda having to concede the position down to 9th. Now we'll have Fernando Alonso all in his mirrors. That's what's going a little further down in the back. I mentioned we're a couple of cars down in this Grand Prix now. 2 retirements, one for the Williams of Alex Albon and one for the Alpine of Pierre Gasly. Rosanna Tennant, what more do we know?
Well, I've been talking to Gasly and to Albon, both very disappointed to be out of the race. For Pierre Gasly, he's not sure whether it is a PU unit, an engine issue, or whether it might actually be an exhaust. If it is a power unit issue, he feels...
the pace here.
That's Marcus talking to George Russell, Marcus Dudley, his performance engineer, race engineer, just telling him to keep up the pace. And Pierre Gasly and Alpine are okay on engine, so I don't think any penalty coming their way for the remainder of the season. And then Alex Albon, it was a power unit issue for him and the Williams team, so a really disappointing weekend for them. Of course, that huge crash for Albon's teammate Franco Colapinto yesterday as well. But lots of action back on track, Harry, as well.
Yeah, shame for Gasly. They will pay the price for that in the Constructors' Championship with Alpine. They'll drop down to 7th now as Nico Hulkenberg just got ahead of Tsunoda and up into 8th. That puts Haas now back up into 6th place. But that's what's going on a little further down the field. Up front, George Russell has been told to keep up the pace if he can. 5 seconds splitting him and his teammate Lewis Hamilton on lap 46 of 50. Hamilton also has the fastest lap and is continuing to fly. Sainz in the Ferrari holds on to the final podium for now. Max Verstappen is 4th and looks set to take his 4th World Championship under the lights here in Vegas. He's got Charles Leclerc all over the back of him though, but even if Leclerc gets through on Verstappen, the championship is still the Dutchman's because Norris is 10 seconds down in P6. Then it's Piastri rounding out the top 7. But I'll tell you what, Alice, Charles Leclerc has been behind Max Verstappen for quite a while now and is not finding a way through.
Yeah, frustration for him. He knows he's faster. Sergio Perez has been making his way up the order. He's now broken into the points. A nice, easy move down the inside of Fernando Alonso into turn 14. Charles Leclerc is going to have a look down the inside. He does so into turn 14, dives down the inside of Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen's putting up no fight. All he knows he's got to do is finish ahead of Lando Norris. Claps from the Ferrari garage, currently sitting 3rd and 4th at the moment. But another easy move for Charles Leclerc and no fight from Max Verstappen because he knows he doesn't need to, Harry.
He doesn't. He's back down to where he started this race in 5th on a weekend where Red Bull were off the pace from the very start with issues trying to get up to speed around here. They're slow on the straights. They're not that much better in the corners. Adaptations being made to their rear wing with literal chunks being taken out of it to try and reduce the dragginess of it, to give them a little extra punch down the straights. In the end, though, Verstappen once again can rise above the issues with the car, but on this case, it's just not quite enough for a podium place. He would have wanted to take the title on the top step. That will not happen. It will be down in 5th. However, the gap between Norris and Verstappen was 10 seconds. It's just dipped down to about 9.5, but we are on 47, lap 47 of lap 50, so that will be a near on impossible chance for Lando Norris. But if it ends like this, Verstappen secures that title. The gap out front, Russell 5.1 seconds ahead of Hamilton. He's able just to control that gap now, it seems, for the win of this race.
Clearly he was saving some kind of tyre for Lewis Hamilton, but Lewis Hamilton's done a great race from 10th on the grid. We're just riding on board with him now, and he made a small mistake into turn 7, had to cut the corner at turn 8, was just about able to sneak it back on just as the curb ends on the left-hand side there. So no issue and no real time loss for Lewis Hamilton. But George Russell, we've not seen him much, Harry. He's drove a brilliant race, was under some pressure at the start from Charles Leclerc, but he held his own, he got his elbows out, he forced the Ferrari driver all the way to the edge of the track, and Charles Leclerc knows what it's like being out there at turn 1, hung out to dry. That happened to him last year by Max Verstappen. Max, of course, did get a 5-second penalty for forcing him off the track, but Russell kept it clean and he was able to build a gap, and by the end of the first pit stops the gap was around about 8 or 9 seconds, and that gap is now going up to his teammate Lewis Hamilton, 6.4 seconds. Lewis has dropped into the 137s. He was circulating in the 135, so clearly Hamilton now has used up all his hard tyre, but he's got a nice buffer to Carlos Sainz behind of around about 7.5 seconds.
Lando Norris has just been told to box and come into the pits. I wonder if that is just to stick on perhaps one fresh set of tyres to go for the fastest lap, just to try and prove some kind of point there. It still won't be enough for the British racer to keep the title hopes going alive if he does indeed go and do that, but it might be a little bit of pride for McLaren and Lando Norris, who look like the title is slipping away from them. And in the case of this race, though, it's going towards Mercedes and George Russell, who is on course for his 3rd career Grand Prix victory. Indeed, Lewis Hamilton hasn't made an appearance on the top step of the podium or on the podium since Belgium earlier this year when he inherited George Russell's win following Russell's disqualification post-race. This will be a massive moment for Mercedes, and it'll be even bigger because Sylvester Stallone is going to do the checkered flag.
Yeah, we get celebrities here It's a prime race to come to. Into the pits comes Lando Norris. And talking about constructors' battles, 23 points, Harry, will be the gap between McLaren and Ferrari at the top of the Constructors' Championship. That battle is going to continue to rage on into Qatar, where Ferrari have said they're not expecting that track to favour their car. McLaren will be hoping that it will favour theirs, but George Russell has done everything right during this race. He's navigated some traffic. He's just passed Esteban Ocon in the Alpine, who was also boxed for soft tyres. There's only 2 drivers out on the softs at the moment. That is Lando Norris and Esteban Ocon. He's got a little bit of traffic ahead of him, which will be Liam Lawson. But he's done everything that he could have, got off the line, and he's drove what you could say is quite a perfect race. 7 seconds now ahead of Lewis Hamilton. There's no chance, as it stands, for Hamilton to close that gap at all.
No, indeed, it's actually gone back up, as you say, to 7 seconds, and Russell breezes past our commentary box located on the final corner, which isn't really even a corner, it's a flat-out left-hand kink, as Russell now embarks on the final lap, 50 of 50 here at the Las Vegas Strip circuit, just over 6 kilometres away from George Russell becoming the winner under the lights. Last year it was Max Verstappen on the top step. This year a mighty drive, a mighty weekend, it has to be said, for the British driver and the Mercedes team, who look on course to celebrate a 1-2 finish. The 2 Ferraris will have to settle for 3rd and 4th, as they cannot find that pace compared to the Mercedes. They came into this weekend as the favourites. It hasn't panned out that way. Just to bring you up to speed, what's going on in the lower point scoring positions, Nico Hülkenberg has cemented 8th place ahead of the RB of Yuki Tsunoda. That is crucial for the Haas team, who will retake 6th place in the Constructors' Championship. And looks like Sergio Perez, who started down in 15th, has been able to get inside that top 10, but only 10th. Just the 1 point for Sergio Perez.
Lando Norris, fastest of anybody in the first sector. He's looking to snatch the fastest lap away from Lewis Hamilton. But George Russell is entering the final few corners, Harry.
He certainly is. George Russell will cross the line in just a few moments' time. Cool, calm and collected from the British racer. He will take the plaudits on top of the podium. He's already celebrating inside the cockpit of his car. A fist for the win. George Russell wins the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Hamilton will come home in 2nd and Carlos Sainz will be 3rd. But for the Dutchman, it is the jackpot in Las Vegas. Max Verstappen has rolled the dice and scored a hard 4 times a champion in Formula One, against all of the off-track noise, the controversy surrounding his Red Bull team since round 1, the loss of performance, the hemorrhaging of top-level staff, the questioning and the penalties given for his own driving standards. The 27-year-old has kept his head cool and delivered his best title yet. He joins the 4-timer club. Alain Prost, Sebastian Vettel, and now Max Verstappen, a 4-time world champion.
Brilliant stuff from Max Verstappen. He looks quite emotional in the cockpit, head in his hands as he comes down the back straight, and the sphere lit up. Your 2024 world champion Max Verstappen, fully deserved. Not always have the best car throughout the year, has he, Harry? But he's raced hard. At times people have questioned his racing, but at the end of the day, Max has pulled everything out of the bag, and he's done a great job and a fully deserved world champion.
His best world championship? Let's hear from him first.
And that is 4 in a row, Max. 4 in a row, congratulations.
Max Verstappen, you are a 4-time world champion. That is a phenomenal achievement. You can be incredibly proud of yourself as we are. Amazing, well done.
Oh my God, man, what a season. 4 times. Thank you guys, thank you to everyone. I mean, it's a little bit more difficult than last year, but we pulled through and we gave it all. Thank you so much, guys.
You can hear what it means to him, and it has been a tough year for Max Verstappen. He was the odds-on favourite in Bahrain. We all turned up and thought, here we go again. Red Bull and Max Verstappen domination, but that hasn't been the case.
Vegas, baby! Vegas!
Viva Las Vegas, baby.
Viva! Oh, boys and girls! Whoa! Come on!
Well done, mate. Superb drive today. Faultless.
Sounds like George Russell's won the World Championship more than Max Verstappen, but he's only won the race. But you can tell what that means to him as well. As the two Mercedes, Hamilton in second, it's a 1-2 for them. And Hamilton has been voted the driver of the day as well. But they drive side by side down the Las Vegas Strip. And what a sight it is of the remaining 18 cars all slowly meandering down the Vegas Strip. Caesar's Palace illuminated in neon lights. The Bellagio Hotel a little further away in the distance with the fountain set to create quite the storm. And some of the most iconic places on the planet being shown.
I never thought this was possible, but thanks to you guys, it is. So, yeah, thanks again.
And I think, I said, Alice, I think it was his best world title. And I say that because I think he hasn't all got his way. And he's had to fight for it. He's had things go against him, and that is what sweetens the deal.
It is, and I still think it is one of his best. I mean, I'm sure we'll chat about it on the Checker Flag podcast later on, but that race that he had in 2021, or the battle with Lewis Hamilton, was fantastic. I mean, the way it ended, it will always be controversial, but certainly this year he's not always had the best car, and he's had to pull it out of the bag on numerous occasions. And that race at Sao Paulo was hugely impressive, so impressive from Max Verstappen. But George Russell, he is the winner of this race, pulls up in front of the number one spot. He takes off his seatbelt, removes the steering wheel, and he will climb aloft of his silver arrow, and he'll wave and will be cheered on by this fantastic crowd we have here in Vegas, and his team as well. Before, I'm sure they'll head in, what was it, a Rolls Royce that they were in last year and driven around to the Bellagio.
It is indeed. Rosanna Tennant is down on the ground for us. You've got a good view of George Russell, our race winner and our world champion for 2024.
There are so many people down here in the pit lane, Harry, and so many people in the grandstand cheering as the three top drivers and our now four-time world champion Max Verstappen pull up onto the grid. It's all a little bit different here in Las Vegas, but wow, they know how to put on a party for the pinnacle of motorsport, Formula One. Everybody's got their camera phone out, trying to capture the moment. Everybody trying to savour it all as well. Lights flashing, music blaring, and Christian Horner, obviously, everybody wanting a word. I've just been given the eyes by a fellow journalist, so I'm going to wait my turn and get in the queue. I think I was actually first, but never mind. I will hand back to you, Harry, and I will try and get Christian a little later.
You get those elbows out, Rosanna. That's what Max Verstappen would do.
Want some Max Verstappen in you, Rosanna, come on.
Well, Verstappen is straight away cheering with his mechanics and engineers, and actually just straight away as well, going over to Lewis Hamilton, a handshake and a hug with George Russell, and the two Mercedes drivers hugging as well. I think you can see they've still got their helmets on, but there is a smile in Lewis Hamilton's eyes there. He'll be happy with that one, showcasing the pace he had. He might have thought it could have been the win if qualifying had gone his way yesterday, but ultimately he rocketed up through the field. The strategy went his way, managing the tyres on this tricky circuit where the grip has been so low all weekend for everybody. It has been a far from a straightforward weekend here in Vegas. George Russell crouching down by his Mercedes car, and a hug with his number one mechanic as well. Let's head back down to Rosanna.
Christian, huge congratulations to you, the team, and Max. Of course, what an incredible moment in his career. Just sum up how everyone's feeling at the moment.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, he's done an amazing job. He's been outstanding all year. We're just very, very proud of him. I mean, he's driven brilliantly. He's won 8 Grand Prix. He's won the World Championship with 2 races ago. You can't ask for more than that.
And it's been a difficult year, and yet still he's managed to perform.
Yeah, he just gets in the car and he delivers. And, he's a great human being. He's a great kid. He's an exceptional driver. It puts him amongst the greats. Absolutely puts him amongst the greats. He's, statistics now put him there as well.
And 4 to his name. Do you think there are more to come his way as well?
Look, I mean, he's only just turned 27 and he's in the form of his life. So, as long as we can keep giving him a decent car, then he'll keep delivering.
I'll let you get through to hopefully congratulate him yourself.
Thank you very much. Can you actually see what?
I'll tell you what's going on. Yes. No, it's George Russell now. Not your boy. Don't worry.
Thanks, Rosanna. Talking to the team principal of Red Bull, Christian Horner, as they try and organise the chaos that is happening on the grid. There is a Rolls-Royce on the grid ready to take the top 3 to the Bellagio Hotel, where they will have the podium celebrations in front of the fountain, and Max Verstappen will get his own Rolls-Royce that will follow on and do the interviews and hear from him over at the iconic Bellagio Hotel. 4 times a world champion, Rosanna.
The drivers have run over to thank their mechanics, to hug the mechanics, Carlos Sainz and George Russell. They're getting weighed. Carlos Sainz has just put a beanie on. It's got a lot chillier here since the start of the race. I have to say, temperatures really dropped. Head of F1, Stefano Domenicali's come over to congratulate the drivers, and now they're making their way onto the start-finish straight. And I don't know if you can hear the screaming, but the fans in the grandstand are absolutely loving the show that F1 are putting on and Vegas are putting on this evening. And they are going to get into a very smart, snazzy car and head off to the Bellagio. It is all very different, as I say. We don't just go straight into the traditional podium here. So we've got a bit of a journey on our hands.
Max Verstappen's having a good look inside that Rolls-Royce. I think that's your car, Harry. I'm sure you've got one of those parked on the drive at home.
I don't know how you guys get to the circuit, but that's how I've been getting to the circuit. He looks a little bit lonely. Let's have a listen, though, in the other Rolls-Royce with Sainz and Russell. Oh, no, they've gone now. We talked over it. Hamilton is having a peer into the Rolls-Royce as well to see where he can get it in, and the fans are almost standing on the railings there trying to get in. The door is opened, and Hamilton joins the party in the top 3 car that will lead the way to the Bellagio. Max Verstappen following in his own. Celebrate 4 in a row, 4 times a world champion. Russell, Hamilton and Carlos Sainz were the top 3. Charles Leclerc was 4th ahead of Verstappen. Lando Norris in 6th, who did steal that fastest lap point in the end. Then it was Piastri in 7th, Hülkenberg 8th, Tsunoda 9th and Perez 10th. Here's the sounds of what's going on inside the drivers' top 3 rolls.
A long way to go, though. A long way to catch up. 10th place was so far behind.
But you made pretty good progress at that, right?
Yeah. Tyre just went. And I couldn't shift it to the rear because it was all too low grip. Yeah. That's the thing, it's so unique. Yeah.
Those last 2 voices there were the voices of Max Verstappen and his engineer Giampiero Lambiase, and actually that's something that could go under the radar. That relationship there, those 2 together worked well for over a decade now between each other, Max Verstappen and Giampiero Lambiase. How important, Alice, is that partnership between driver and engineer on the pit wall?
Crucial. It's one of the most important relationships in the team. He on the radio, that's who you'll hear, his engineer talking to Max. Do you want to let's just listen in between our top 3? Or not? They've all decided to go quiet. They're taking in the sights, but that is the most important relationship between driver and engineer. You work so closely with each other. Of course, there's lots of people that are back at base for Red Bull and at the track as well. Hugely important, and it's a big team, but at the end of the day, that's who makes a lot of the decisions between himself, Max, and the engineers as well. But he's at the end of the radio talking to Max, and sometimes they have frank words between each other, but it's a love-hate relationship or not. They definitely are friends as they ride together in this final Rolls-Royce, and Max is telling the driver to put his foot down by the sounds of it, Harry.
Yeah, well, the driver's still making their way to the Bellagio. Let's get the thoughts of the BBC's F1 correspondent, Andrew Benson, watching that race alongside us. Frenetic race, but Max Verstappen champion at the end, and a worthy champion.
Indeed, he's driven absolutely brilliant season. I was looking through some numbers earlier. He's not had the fastest car basically on average since about the 4th race of the year.
Wow.
He dominated the first few races, won 4 out of 5. McLaren, made a big step forward from Miami, but he kept winning even despite that. And even when he wasn't winning, he was maximising his points. His one bad weekend, I think, probably was Mexico, where he seemed to lose his head a little bit when he was battling with Lando Norris, got a couple of penalties. Other than that, he's been absolutely flawless, performing absolutely at the top of his game. And he is, he already was, let's be honest, but he is without doubt one of the greatest Formula One drivers in history. And the big question, of course, is can Red Bull continue their form? Because I think had the season started at the 5th or 6th race, maybe he wouldn't be world champion, although maybe he still would. It's a difficult one, but if the next season starts in the way that this season developed from May, then we could have a hell of a season on our hands. But at the moment, this year, Verstappen was easily, comfortably head and shoulders clear of the rest of the field as a driver.
And the 4-time championship is his as they arrive and make their way towards the Bellagio Hotel. The podium ceremonies will take place outside on the Bellagio terrace in front of the iconic fountains, just outside of the top 10 to finish the running order. Alonso was 11th ahead of Magnussen, Zhou 13th, Colapinto and Stroll the top 15, with Liam Lawson 16th, Esteban Ocon was 17th and Valtteri Bottas 18th and last for Sauber, with no Alex Albon, who retired for Williams, along with Pierre Gasly's Alpine. The only major change in the Constructors' Championship is that Haas have retaken 6th spot ahead of Alpine and RB, but there's still just about 4 points separating those 3 teams. Meanwhile, McLaren hold on to the lead in the Constructors' Championship, but Ferrari have closed the gap. That will continue to roll on. Ferrari in 2nd, Red Bull in 3rd, Mercedes and Aston Martin the top 5. It's Verstappen, though, who will be celebrating the most late into the evening here. Take your pick. There's plenty of bars, casinos and hotels in Las Vegas. You can't go far wrong with the Eiffel Tower that sits on top of the Paris Hotel, the Cosmopolitan overlooking the entire Strip, shrouding the Bellagio, the Venetian, the Statue of Liberty of New York, New York. There really are 5 cities in one here in Nevada, in the city of sin. And it has come alive even more so tonight for Formula One's return for the 2nd year in a row. We'll be back again next year. And it does provide some good racing, Alice, it has to be said. For all of our chat on the schedule, it is a good racing spectacle. And we're going to have some great interviewers as well. Terry Crews and Jenson Button talking to George Russell, our race winner, and the rest of the podium too.
No better place. Yes. Uh-oh, they're calling me. Okay, yeah. There's no better place to celebrate a big win than Vegas. Any plans tonight?
You tell me. I'm sure where you're going is going to be a good party. So I was planning on flying in a couple of hours, but I'm definitely not getting on that flight. And I'm going to enjoy this evening with all my team. It's been a dream of a weekend. I don't know how we've been so quick, but I'm just riding this wave right now.
Can you tell us what is special about a night race here in Las Vegas?
Vegas is just a crazy place, and when you're driving you see all of this in the background. I can't even describe this place. So to get the victory here, pole position, dominant weekend, 1-2 with Lewis as well, we couldn't have chosen a better place to make this happen.
So George, from the time the lights went out, beautiful start, and we didn't see you after that. That's when you know you've put on a clinic.
I was just waiting for something to happen. The 2 races I've been on pole before, it's always been chaos, rain, dry, and always something happening. Last race in Brazil, with the red flag. So I'm like, I feel confident here. I've got a good gap, but I'm just waiting for something to happen, and it didn't. So I guess luck has turned, and yeah, just so happy right now.
Congratulations, George. Enjoy Vegas.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
George, this is hot.
Good job, buddy.
Oh my God.
I'd like to start the petition to have the actor Terry Crews to do all the interviews alongside Jenson Button. They're with Lewis Hamilton now.
I'll jump in.
Go ahead.
Lewis, obviously yesterday,
it was a tough one to swallow, I'm guessing. You know, you've been quick all weekend. But then starting P10, chasing down George at the end, it was fun. We were biting our nails. There was some action out there.
No, it was great. Well, firstly, I've got to say a big congratulations to Max winning the championship. Still with several laps to go, races to go. And if I'd done my job yesterday, I would have been a breeze today. But it's okay. I had fun coming from the back, coming from 10th, and the team did a fantastic job. We don't know why we were so quick this weekend, but that's the best the car's ever felt. So I'm grateful to have been a part of getting it to that point.
But the hunger.
I do want to ask, in regards to the climate in Las Vegas, did that make a difference in your preparation for what you were going to do here?
The climate doesn't. It's not the. It's just that the race is so late.
Yeah.
So you're going to bed at 5, 6 a.m., waking up and starting your day much later, which is quite difficult. So you don't get a lot of sun during the day, so that really messes with your rhythm. But otherwise, it's cold. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe the reason that we did so well is because it's cold. If we're in a hot climate, that's where we struggle the most.
Guitar? Night race?
Yeah, I mean, if the car drives like that in the next couple of races, then I think we'll be in a good spot to challenge the guys at front. And the championship's done, so now it's just all out, fight for the best positions possible.
Enjoy your last 2 races. It was 10 years to the day yesterday that you won your first championship with Mercedes.
We both looked a lot younger then, didn't we? Anyways, big fan of yours, dude.
Man, big fan, dude.
Cheers,
awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
And now Carlos Sainz steps up to the plate.
Nice to meet you, my man. Pleasure to meet you. Good to see you.
Congratulations. That looked like an interesting race. We didn't really know what was going on with the tyres. I'm guessing it was just as difficult for you guys, graining on both sets of tyres. The unusual not pit entry. How did it end up for you?
Yeah, it was a bit of a shock, the mediums. I was expecting to be quite strong in this tyre, but I think it lasted something like 8-9 laps on me, and then from there onwards it was just damage limitation race. I was not comfortable with the car, not strong today. I wish I would have been a bit quicker and would have been fighting with George for the win, but we just simply didn't have it in ourselves today. So we came back with a P3, a podium that is not enough for what we expected, but the maximum that we could do today.
Right.
Well, considering that manhole incident last year, did that make you a little nervous about what was going to happen this year for you guys? Are you superstitious?
No, I was hoping that maybe Vegas had something to offer to me after what happened last year. I'll take a podium for this year as a bit of a vendetta, but at the same time, I was looking at every manhole during that race, avoiding them this time. And but that's things of the past now. Focus on the future. I think this race has delivered again a pretty good show, and looking forward to come back here in the future.
So Carlos, it's great seeing you race with Charles. Obviously you're in the same car, you're going to find the same bit of tarmac. It's going to happen, but it's really nice to see that you guys are allowed to fight, and there's a real fight between you guys.
Yeah, and it's been like that for 4 years. Charles and I have gone wheel to wheel pretty much every not every race weekend, but every 2 or 3 races, because we share the same piece of tarmac. We are both very competitive, very close on pace, and we find ourselves always fighting each other at the same time that we fight the Mercedes, the Red Bulls, and the McLarens. I don't think we could have finished more than P3 and P4 today, but it's what it is. We will keep pushing and see if we can keep a good momentum up.
That's fine. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carlos Sainz third, then talking to Terry Crews and Jenson Button. And we're moments away from hearing from our four-time champion.
Verstappen. Listen, first of all, you were my introduction into F1 in Budapest, and I'm hooked forever. And now, how does this feel, man? I mean, this great accomplishment you've done today. Talk to us right now.
Yeah, it's been a long season, and of course we started off amazing. It was almost like cruising, but then we had a tough run. But as a team, we kept it together. We kept working on improvements, and we pulled over the line. I mean, incredibly proud of everyone, what they have done for me, and to stand here as a 4-time world champion is of course something that I never thought was possible. So at the moment just feeling relieved in a way, but also very proud.
Max, congratulations. You join an illustrious group of F1 drivers that have won 4 world championships. Is that what you expected at 17 years old when you first jumped into an F1 car?
Definitely not. I was just happy to be there and, dreaming of potential victories or standing on the podium, the normal things that are already very difficult to achieve. And then we just got on to that run after, of course, a tough few years where we kept trying. And then, we just hit the ground running with a new concept. And like I said, to be standing here, 4-time world champion is just incredible.
It's amazing to see, and 4 in a row as well. Mentally, we know how demanding this sport is on you, but you've been able to keep your head strong. And this year has not been the easiest either, has it? It seems like it's been the most competitive year in Formula One we've seen for many years. How have you been able to keep your head there in the right place through this latter part of the season?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was a very challenging season. I think also as a person, at times it's very challenging, and I had to be calm. And I think in a way, of course, I still prefer last season. I enjoyed that a lot, but I think this season definitely, taught me a lot of lessons that I'm very proud of how we handled it also as a team. So in a way, of course, that makes it also a very, very special and beautiful season.
Yeah, have you got any messages for all your fans around the world and your team? They've been with you through thick and thin and supported you.
Yeah, of course, to the fans, always it's amazing to see them everywhere supporting me. I think they got a bit spoiled last year with all the wins, so they had to wait for it a long time in the middle of the season. But yeah, incredible sport always, and great to see them again here as well. And I mean, to the team. What can I say? I mean, we have been through a lot together, and all these highs that we are achieving right now is just, very, very special to do that with all the group of people that we have here at the track and back at the factory. That they're continuously pushing flat out, to give me the car to fight for a title, and to do that 4 times in a row is very special.
I know we shouldn't be thinking about the future because we've got to be living in the moment, but does this keep you just still hungry for the future years in F1 to come back and fight for the 5th one in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, of course, if you look at it, to next year right now, I think it's going to be a proper battle between a lot of cars. But I'm hungry. I'm going to enjoy this, but there are still 2 more races that I want to do well at the same time. And then, of course, we take a little break and then we try and go at it again next year.
Congratulations, Max. I think it's officially a dynasty. I love it. I hate those words, but I'm going to call it right now. You have set a dynasty right here. It's amazing.
Thank you very much.
It's amazing seeing you clinch this 4th title here. And what better place to do it? You were in Vegas.
Yes, I know. What time is it? I'm very thirsty, so.
Well, Max Verstappen, you are the 2024 Formula One World Champion.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, man.
Well, that was quite something, wasn't it? Terry Crews, Jenson Button asking the questions as the fountains outside the Bellagio Hotel light up and display for the 4-time world champion, Max Verstappen. And our top 3, George Russell taking the win ahead of his Mercedes teammate Lewis Hamilton. Carlos Sainz 3rd on the podium. We'll slowly wrap up some of the action from this Las Vegas Grand Prix. If you're waking up and hoping for breakfast with Chris Warburton and Ellie Oldroyd, that will be coming up in about 10 minutes time. They'll be following us, and I'm alongside Alice Powell, racing driver. Alice, just 27 years old is Max Verstappen. He has been so honest in his voicing that he's not going to be here till Fernando Alonso's age at 40. Here's Russell's radio first.
Oh my God, this feels good. We're going out tonight, guys. We are going out tonight.
We are going out on the strip.
And congrats to Max.
George, let's have a drink let's have a drink tonight in Las Vegas, in Los Angeles, I mean.
Toto, I'm saying in Vegas. I'm saying in Vegas.
I think then maybe I need to stay in Vegas too.
Thought Toto had forgotten where he was then, and then he sort of saved it somewhat. But back to what you asked me, here's Lewis Hamilton.
This weekend, guys, you really deserve it. It's been a long, long year, and results like this have not come easy. So I'm really proud of you all, and I'm grateful I could get up there for you.
Great work, Lewis. That's an excellent recovery today. Real great drive.
But back to Max. Certainly, how many more has he got in him? He's not always had the best car this season. He has, of course, he made all his points really to stretch the lead and almost give him this World Championship at the start of the season. We thought going into leaving Bahrain, should I say, that, oh, here we go again, a dominant display again from Max Verstappen, ease to victory, but he continued, and then McLaren caught up, and there was a continued scrap between him. You could chuck the Ferraris in there as well. It's been a brilliant season, and not just a brilliant season for Max Verstappen, but for Formula One as well. We've had so many different winners, and it's the first season in history in which 4 different constructors have finished 1-2, and that's of course Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren and Mercedes. What a great stat.
Thank you very much, Alice, indeed. What a great stat. That's Max Verstappen, though. We will talk long about his championship in our post-race podcast, The Checkered Flag. That will drop in BBC Sounds and wherever you get your podcast later on today. Right now, though, the big celebrations are happening for the top 3 as they make their way out onto the podium. Carlos Sainz in third, a handshake with Lewis Hamilton, the man that is replacing him at the Ferrari team next year. Hamilton puts himself onto the second step on the rostrum, but the top step is reserved for George Russell, who is elevated from the bottom to the top of the podium. A thumbs up and a wave as we will celebrate with the national anthem. The British national anthem followed by the German national anthem for George Russell and Mercedes, the winners of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Russell, Hamilton in second, and Carlos Sainz for Ferrari in third. But the man with probably the biggest celebrations this evening, the biggest smile tonight in Las Vegas, although I do think George Russell will give him a run for his money, will be Max Verstappen, who has claimed his 4th world title. Rosanna Tennant, who's been down in the paddock and the pit lane for us across the weekend. What is the atmosphere like now, Rosanna? What starts to calm down, but really this is just the beginning of the party.
Well, it is for Max Verstappen and his family and friends, I'm sure, and probably the Red Bull team as well. Although we've got to remember, we're at the start of a triple header, so still work to do. But the atmosphere is incredible. People were queuing to get on to the start-finish straight for that podium. People were queuing to get a place at Parc Fermé when Max Verstappen came in to get weighed by the FIA. Everybody wants to prove they were here, to say that they saw Verstappen on the day he became a 4-time world champion. It's a moment in history, and what a moment in Max Verstappen's career. He's been in this sport since he was 17. So many question marks about whether he was ready to enter the pinnacle of motorsport. He has proved any naysayers wrong. 4 championships in a row. He has matured through this sport, and this year, of all of the years, he has been so incredibly mature. The way he has dealt with all the off-track problems with the team, managing his father and his team principal's relationship, and dealing with a car that has not given him the performance that he would have required to take the championship earlier on. The fireworks are erupting around this incredible city, colours of red bursting into the sky, and Max Verstappen deserves this championship. What a year he has had.
The fireworks erupt over Las Vegas from the top of the Bellagio Hotel and every hotel going around the city of Nevada in Las Vegas, and George Russell absolutely covered in champagne on the top step of the podium. Russell, Hamilton and Sainz on the podium, Verstappen the champion. What a day, what a weekend we've had in Vegas, Alice. It has all happened. It feels like it's the end of the season. We have got 2 more races to go.
We have, and what? Vegas has not disappointed yet again. Great race last year, another one this year, and I can barely hear myself speak, Harry. We've got our commentary box door open and a great display of fireworks here at Vegas, but what a race, what a weekend. Deep into the night, the celebrations will continue for Mercedes and for Red Bull of Max Verstappen, and well done to all drivers out there. We had no safety car as well, and the probability for a safety car was very high, but we didn't get one.
No, we didn't, and the fireworks, which we were actually watching from our commentary box, we just opened our door to have a look, and they really were quite something. They have now stopped. And well, the celebrations are only just getting started. It will be a late night, but it can't be too late because everybody will be getting on a plane soon enough to head to Qatar, which is where Formula One rocks up to next weekend. And then straight after that, we finish everything off in Abu Dhabi. We still got a constructors fight on our hands as well. McLaren versus Ferrari. Who will come out on top on that occasion? But for now, here in Las Vegas, it's George Russell who is on top on the podium. But it's Max Verstappen, Ellie and Chris, a 4-time world champion.
The voice of the